Hello everybody, welcome back to Level 1 News. Today is May 24th and we're doing government and security news.
We're
I got through that just perfectly.
We're nothing if not consistent.
With our audio. Oh wait.
We think we fixed the modulation issue, but we think we might still sound a little bit underwater. You guys can tell us in the comments, I'm sure.
Listen, we're just going to burn this set down and it'll be fine. We're just going to start over. Just format and reinstall. That's what we do, except with real things.
It's going to be extra bad next week.
We don't know. It might be okay. We actually can't tell.
I did update OBS and Linux and some other things.
We definitely think we fixed the scene transition thing, but we're about to find out because we're about to talk about some terrible government things that are happening. The first one, I don't know, maybe it's not so terrible. I kind of love it when government is deadlocked and they can't do anything new. Yeah. Except, you know, that does help the regulatory capture. It's kind of bad any way that you go,
it really
so I'm
is.
not sure how to read this one.
Deadlocked FCC could derail Biden's digital equity plans. So there's a vacant position in the U.S. with the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. You might remember him from such adventures of Ajit Pai. So,
well, that's the reason there's a vacancy.
Yeah. Well, Biden nominated somebody, but the Senate won't hold a hearing to confirm them. It's just our government has become so incredibly dysfunctional. Well, it's
gotten worse.
It impresses me that there's even more ways for it to be dysfunctional than I even knew was a thing.
But in some cases, I believe that it is a very, very, very good thing that they are gridlocked and can stop this kind of stupidity from being inflicted upon us. Because in this case, same situation, except it wasn't just political deadlock, but massive public outcry that caused them to step back.
Homeland Security puts its digital governments or disinformation governance board on ice. I can't talk today.
The DGB, if you will. No one's thought about that acronym.
That is also referred to as the Ministry of Truth in the wonderful 1984 series. And here I was thinking a Brave New World was what we were living more than 1984.
And of course, everybody's amazing nickname for the young lady who was chosen to head it, appointed, not elected, Scary Poppins. Also, Senator Kennedy, when he was doing that hearing, he was like describing her. And it was like, sir, are you familiar with that? And the guy had some non-committal answers. He was like, she's quite precocious. I mean, it's theater, but it was pretty good theater at that time. And here's a big one. Now, you might be wondering, how is this tech news? This is definitely on the edge of tech news, but this is kind of on the edge of everything.
Super stonk.
This could have a lot of impacts, not just on, the GameStop, but every governmental agency that is unelected bureaucrats.
Court rules SEC's internal judges are unconstitutional. This is because the SEC's internal judges were assessing fines and saying you violated the rules and blah, blah, blah. The Securities and Exchange Commission, doesn't that date from like the FDR days?
I don't know how old it is, but every one of these institutions is Congress delegating their lawmaking power to someone else.
And the Supreme Court,
responsibility to someone else is what that is.
And the Supreme Court has done away with that.
No, not the Supreme Court, the Fifth Circuit.
Oh, the Fifth Circuit.
It will be going to the Supreme Court.
Well, I wonder which way they're going to rule.
I'm not at all confident they're going to uphold this. I think this is too threatening to the overall structure of government.
Nah, this is the Ajit Pai play. I think that this kind of dysfunction is exactly what they want, because this is what Ajit Pai did. When Ajit Pai was in the FCC, he said, I don't have the authority to do this.
You think they have the authority?
I think the SEC has the authority to investigate fraud. Like, if we look at
enforcement.
Yeah, if we look at, I think the enforcement should be referred to a prosecutor.
No, but enforcement is what they should be doing. What they're doing is creating law and regulation.
Yeah, that's probably
they're
not
inventing new things, which should Congress. I can't remember the wording of it, but
Congress has to actually
passes the laws,
the rules and the laws.
But we've delegated.
The FCC has delegated stuff in a kind of a way for radio spectrum as well, though, and it's okay that they have rulemaking with that. I don't know. There is a line there somewhere.
Yeah, I feel torn in both directions, because it's like, do I really trust my Congress critters to understand this? But then I don't know if I really trust the bureaucrats either. So
and the level of corruption inside the SEC really does seem pretty staggering too, because you look at the naked shorting stuff. I mean, look, I'm an idiot. I don't know anything about that, and it looks pretty clearly like it's fraud. There's fraud going on, and yet there's no criminal charges. I don't understand. We don't need new laws to prosecute fraud, right? I mean, we just need to lay bare that this was a kind of fraud, and the SEC can help us do that.
How about this argument? How about the fact that when the SEC brings enforcement action and they do it all on their own and they deal with you, they haggle, they get what they want, and they let you off with a little bit of a slap on the wrist, and everybody's happy. No one admits fault. There's no discovery. If we had a jury trial, we would know exactly what these people are doing.
That seems like that would breed corruption.
You're talking about how it's done now.
Yeah.
But you're arguing against it.
I think that the companies not having the SEC suddenly, the companies will run even more amok than they are now.
And they will get sued into oblivion, and then we will discover all of the bad things over the course of the next few years.
I feel like you guys have reversed almost, because usually it's Wendell who's really pessimistic. You're very optimistic that they would actually slap him on the wrist.
I'm not even optimistic that the Supreme Court will uphold this. I think the Supreme Court will go the other way.
You think the Supreme Court will
Keep the SEC.
Okay. I don't know, because this seems like the same play that they had with the GPI, where they just got rid of it and then it didn't. The corruption would be better for the corruption if the SEC didn't exist, as limited in function as the SEC is.
But if those people were no longer afraid of a toothless SEC, but a rampaging Congress that needs to get reelected, I think we could get more.
Nancy Pelosi rampaging against, I mean...
I think you're being maybe a little optimistic about our Congress critters right now.
Disney can basically buy Congress critters. It's been shown to happen.
I mean, I'm not. I'm not saying that I have any faith in Congress at all. But there will be a transparency to it that there is completely.
That there isn't
right
now. I mean, that is a net benefit. Either way, not clear cut, maybe. But
I mean, gosh, we could dedicate a whole Level 1 channel to just the amazing stuff from Discovery, because the stuff that came out in the Apple Epic lawsuit, like, we could just talk about the exhibits there.
The Zuckerberg emails, the Tim Cook emails.
Those are amazing.
And you're never going to get those until you have a trial.
Oh, we've already seen a microcosm of how Congress will deal with the corporate corruption, too. It was the Zuckerberg testimony in front of Congress.
Yeah, well, that is the other argument, is that there are for sure people in the SEC who can understand these very complex financial vehicles. That is completely out of the scope of Congress. They cannot do it.
Tim Cook, why does my Android phone not give me email notifications?
That's what I'm afraid of. It's like, oh, they have teeth, but they don't actually understand how to use them.
And then they will be lobbied, but SEC's already heavily lobbied.
They're all lobbied, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, it's not good. I admit it's a hard fence to you don't want to, you straddle it and you're like, this side or this side. But yes, I think get rid of unelected bureaucrats. I'm always going to fall on that side.
Yeah.
And a little glimmer of good news, maybe for our audience at least, if you are a security researcher. Up until now, you've lived in a very unsure world. For example, you might find out that red light cameras are cheating and defrauding everybody around you, and that might end up with felony charges against you.
That happened.
That's just the world we live in, and hopefully maybe less of that.
The DOJ announces it won't prosecute white hat security researchers. Of course, the DOJ operates at a federal level, so...
Also, if you read close enough, this is one of those non-binding agreements.
Yeah.
So I don't think in the case of all of these, you remember who was the guy that they had like a Twitter cow? That was him or something.
Nunez's cow.
Yeah. I don't think that would stop him from attacking that. Right? I don't think he would be worried about this because it's non-binding.
This memo also reads like we're real busy right now. We should probably dial back this. But if we get unbusy again, then we can revisit this. Which is sad. Very sad.
I think they're going to be busy. And the economy, boy, it's not doing too well.
No.
It's having some serious issues. Inflation probably being the worst thing for all of us right now. I mean, is anybody immune to inflation right now? Even Elon Musk is feeling it.
Elon Musk has got a lot of problems this week.
But we all can agree that inflation is bad, and there's a lot of it. But we can't agree on exactly what's causing it, which is causing our oligarchs to fight with our elected leaders.
The White House has slammed Bezos, his criticism of the Biden tax comment.
So Bezos says taxing the mega rich is not the way out of inflation. Biden says it is.
I don't know. The mega rich have captured a lot of the money that's been printed as a result of the global situation in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It would certainly help, even if it wouldn't completely solve it.
Wouldn't the capture of that money actually stop inflation though? That was I seem to remember that was one of the rationales. It's like, this won't cause inflation because the billionaires are capturing it anyway.
Well, they're not moving it around. Musk is moving his around, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wouldn't go into the money supply. I mean, I don't believe at all that Bezos is causing inflation.
Economics.
It's the money printing.
Yeah.
You know, we've been printing money for the better part of, 20 years now?
It's catching up with us
Most
finally.
of my life.
And we have some California rulings that are getting smashed down by some appellates. And this one was pretty controversial. Admittedly, there is definitely, the number is very skewed in one direction. But does mandating it fix it?
Judge rules California law requiring women on corporate boards is unconstitutional. So it was, if you have 6 people on the board, 3 have to be women, and less than that, it was like 1 or 2, depending on some rules. But this also says that only like half the companies in California actually even filed a disclosure saying what gender the people on their board identify as. So I don't think this was taken seriously even by a lot of California companies.
But isn't it illegal almost everywhere to hire based on that? Yeah, it's gender discrimination, though.
Yeah. Krista, I don't know. You got any, it's like...
Wow. Wow.
Got any thoughts?
I mean, would it be nice to see more women in leadership? Yes, but mandating it, I don't know that that's the way forward.
Also,
it's a culture. It needs to be a cultural change and not someone from the top telling you what to do.
But also, they have to be looking at the reality that eventually some guy is going to be like, no, I'm a woman. And there's nothing they're going to be able to do about that in California. So might as well just get out ahead of that. Because once that happens, you have to either face the insanity of it or just accept it. So let's not let that happen. ID.me, we followed that whole issue with the federal government. And they were like, hey, we really need to figure out who people are, but we're dumb. We really can't do that. Let's just hire somebody to do that. And let's not look into their past all that much.
Senators urge the FTC to probe ID.me over selfie data. Where did that come from? Where did it go?
Where did it come from? Cotton Eye Joe.
This is Brian Krebs again. He's getting a lot of mileage out of the ID.me. This was, so the IRS has got a problem. It turns out that you can, with the Equifax leaks and everything else, it is trivial for criminals to just look you up and get your tax refund from the IRS. The IRS doesn't really have a lot. It's like, what's your taxpayer identification number? Where do you live? Well, it turns out
Social Security.
Yeah, I mean, what can they ask you that the criminals don't know?
The make and model of your first car.
Those databases have been leaked as well.
Or you just happen to know somebody.
So it's a little bit of a problem. ID.me was the IRS saying, this will fix it. Spoiler alert.
It didn't fix it.
No.
But more importantly, ID.me said we use one-to-one facial recognition. That is, we take your face and we only compare it to the record that we know is you, of your ID, your actual physical ID, that we have that on record. Probably bought that from ICE or somebody else was selling.
California was selling them.
And so don't worry, it's not many to one. And then someone was like, hey, actually I used your service and I observed the network, and for sure it's not one to one. You're looking at the big database. And they're like, well, yeah, we're doing that on registration, but just the one time. And that's a whole different ball of wax. So they're not requiring them anymore, but we all know the boiling frog is coming back.
Right.
What entity has Congress delegated authority to investigate that type of fraud?
Oh yeah, I'm sure another
engagement
unelected
challenge. Where do we file a complaint there? Because Brian Krebs asking for it. I don't think they delegated the authority to Brian Krebs. Who's going to look into this?
No one.
Literally no one. Yeah.
There's your answer.
Brian Krebs.
Yeah.
And we all have heard the fallout from the whole U.S. Terra Luna thing. It's not good. Did some real bad things to the cryptocurrency market. Cost me a lot of money. Unrealized, though. I mean, it was always just a fantasy money. But never let a crisis go to waste, right? A lot of U.S. politicians don't like cryptocurrency. This is a great reason to say that they're bad.
Bloomberg has the article, "Stablecoins are not ready for consumer payments." The U.S. watchdog say the CFPB chief says that Terra collapse raises doubt about stablecoins. Somebody found a way to game the system and make the stablecoin unstable.
He's not necessarily wrong.
No.
I definitely have a much different picture of stablecoins now.
Yeah.
Although I always was untrustworthy of all the new coins because they get busted so often.
It's amazing to me that people are still investing in some of the new coins because there's
FOMO.
always that risk, right?
The FOMO's got them. There's a lot of people right now who are like, it's not going under 28. Go all in.
Do you think it would be too much to ask to get a credit card processor that requires like a FIDO token or some other type of token that's cryptographically secure? Like that's the impetus is like, oh, you can do really secure transactions. If you don't have your thing, then no transaction. It's like, okay, we don't need crypto to do that necessarily. That would be a nice thing to have.
No, I don't think they would ever do that because I think people would be too confused by it.
But if your card was ever stolen or whatever, you've got all your stuff. You got everything you need to figure out what went wrong.
You got to find a proprietary way for each credit card company to do that themselves because they're never going to share a standard.
And there's the problem.
And the other problem is that, as we say, the FOMO will get a lot of people into crypto and they'll get into stuff they don't quite understand. But even bigger problem is when these crypto companies come along and they're like, hey, yeah, we got a good thing. And they try to get somebody in power or somebody with influence to go along with it. And those people also have no idea what's going on, but it's not really a risk to them. So they're like, yeah, let's just go ahead and do that.
Miami's mayor backed MiamiCoin crypto and then its price dropped 95%. So the idea was that you could just effortlessly give something of value from one person to another, and it would have a reasonably stable value. You could pay for goods and services. The garbage men show up and you've got an extra load. You could just boop, and then it's good to go. But there's no risk of the garbage men stealing cash or anything, I guess is really the only added benefit.
Problem is, this was a crypto company run out of a strip mall in California, not even in Florida. And they did not have a great business model. They weren't prepared for the crypto crash at all. And here we are.
Plan for the coin value to go down? What?
Now, you're thinking, well, is Miami screwed? Not at all. Miami only ever got profit from these transactions. It's the people of Miami who paid this price.
Oh, that's acceptable.
Yeah, so it's like you opted to take your city salary in MiamiCoin. Was that one of the options? So you could be paid in MiamiCoin?
I don't know if they ever did that, but God help those people if that was true. And we are certainly seeing a resurgence of propaganda. Oh, it is just a heyday of propaganda out there. I don't know what to believe about this Ukraine war. Did the steel plant fall? Are there still people there? I've been seeing nothing but videos about Russian losing armor, and yet I'm seeing surrendering. I don't know. I don't know what to believe.
It's the fog of war.
Yeah, that's the intention. And the U.S. military is saying, we need to get better at that. We're bad at it.
We can at least track the P-25s in real time because the radio encryption's garbage.
Yeah, but that's like informational logistics. That's not propaganda.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying is like that's the only thing you can trust is the transponders.
But don't expect to trust anything further because now we're getting this exciting new push in our country. I mean, we already had all these people, but now we want to fulfill their ranks. And once again, we should call back to the Smith-Munt Act.
Yeah.
Because they can now do this to you.
Yeah. This unsettling Army recruitment video is a masterclass in psychological warfare. You should pause this and go watch that. OMG.
Very well made.
Literally in the video, everything is a weapon, even this video. The TV is on fire.
Also, they had these old cartoons were creepy when you look back at them.
Yeah.
But yeah, they really don't say much about what's going on in the video, like what you would be doing, just that you're going to wield all kinds of psychological powers. It kind of seems like magic a little bit.
I've read a few too many green texts. This is really kind of terrifying because it's like, oh, that person gets recruited by this video.
I guess it's
Do
better.
you think people from 4chan are the target audience of the U.S. military?
Well, I mean, if we are to believe what the corporate media told us, did they not get Donald Trump elected president?
That's what they're saying.
They called that a psyop, right? Could we not turn that towards something? I don't even know if it's good. Is it
Productive.
It's not productive. I guess if we could like keep China from gaining control, that's good for us on a national level.
Speaking of keeping China from gaining control,
Well, these guys are late to the party, huh?
a little
Yeah.
bit.
Because this happened a long time ago. And in fact, when you read the article, it's like, oh, the opposition had a lot to say about this, but they're not saying we shouldn't have done this. They're saying we should have done this last year.
Canada bans Chinese tech giant Huawei from 5G network. The decision comes loaded with the implications for national security and diplomacy. All right, so what happened is somebody finally looked into this because they thought it wasn't real or it was propaganda or whatever. And then they got the report back, from the security audit and some of the other stuff. And it was like when they opened the Ark of the Covenant on the Indiana Jones movies. There was just melted people everywhere. And they were like, yeah, we need to ban Huawei.
It's a little more sensitive in Canada because they have a lot more Chinese property owners than we do, I think, right? Or at least percentage wise.
Yeah.
And if those people were to just bail out all of a sudden, I'm sure it'd be bad for them.
Yeah.
It'd be great for the real estate market for people who are actually trying to get in and live in those houses.
Yeah, I don't think they would ever do that though, because I don't think those people necessarily want to go back to China.
I mean, there's an argument that maybe some of this equipment is so poorly engineered and so poorly hardened that it's not deliberate. But at that point, it's like you have a brick. Why does a brick need to be able to be remotely disabled by radio? Like, that's more complicated than just making a brick. So then that argument kind of falls apart.
The Apple guys in the Apple basement working on iBrick right now are like, oh.
Once the warranty expires, it turns to a liquid. It's like, who even wants that?
Planned obsolescence.
So yeah, maybe, that might help their housing market, but it's interesting. They have to do the same thing. They have to rip out all the old stuff.
Yeah.
So once again, who's really getting a shot in the arm here? I don't know. Does Canada are they going to be buying our stuff? Do they have companies that make a lot of that stuff?
Well, they have a few, I'd imagine.
Honestly, it's like the Taiwanese telecoms, and it's like supply chain's kind of a risk there too.
And China kind of has the option to make that supply chain go away, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, China is, they keep a tight control on their people, as we're certainly seeing a lot of that with those gates going up everywhere. But it seems that there are some things that the Chinese people just will not listen to authority about.
Bitcoin production roars back in China despite Beijing's ban on crypto mining. So it's sort of stealth coming back is my takeaway from this article. I think there was something lost in translation on the technical aspects of this article.
They also admitted that because of VPN usage, they weren't real sure, but they're like, we don't think it's going to have a big impact on the numbers.
It seemed like they were also saying that some types of crypto mining is permitted still.
But not Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And this is for sure Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Going on. I bet the Communist Party knows about every single one of them, every farm, and they're just waiting
To sweep them all up at once.
whenever we need some cash. Just go take that account.
But it's kind of an interesting model there. It's, you let your billionaires, fatten up, and then you have a cleansing of some
Slaughter.
type.
Cleansing's a nice word.
That's a good way to put it, Chris, because this is kind of like livestock. Huh? It's like,
Yeah.
well, we'll let them live for now.
For now.
We might even nurture them, but ultimately we'll eat them.
That definitely happened in some other European countries.
And China, with the latest war craze, and there's much more nationalism right now, the Chinese have to be more careful about how they embrace big tech, but they can't ever stop themselves completely.
Microsoft's Bing search engine is reportedly censoring names that are sensitive tied to Chinese politics.
Censoring is kind of a strong word for it. It's the autocomplete.
This article also was a little bit full of itself because it said that Microsoft had not responded to articles talking about this thing. And it's like, this is the article about that thing.
I don't quite understand what you're saying.
Like, this article, the article says that Microsoft's stock was trading at the same rate, even though there's reports of, this going on. But this is the article.
This is the only report, is what you're saying.
This was the first one.
Yeah.
That was Seeking Alpha was probably not the first person to report. We're paywall.
We got paywalled even on the paywall alternative.
But I'm sure somebody else broke that story.
I don't know. It read kind of like they were trying to manipulate the auto algorithms to be like, oh, Microsoft needs to go down. I don't know. We'll see.
And Hong Kong used to be kind of a little island in China where you didn't have to deal with all of that control. But then China said, nah.
That's over.
I think we're going to bring them into the fold. And they continue to fold them.
Hong Kong Mulls blocking Telegram channel as part of crackdown on doxing, according to this report.
Doxing being saying anything about CCP members. You're not allowed to talk about them.
Or Hong Kong.
Also, they got their new leader, who, shockingly enough, really pro-China. Yeah.
Weird how that happens.
But if you work for a big tech company, sometimes that can mean more to you than your national identity, especially when your national identity is screwing you pretty hard right now.
Most Google employees have left Russia, at least Russia's subsidiary, and it's going to file for bankruptcy because its bank account was seized. So it didn't shut down. I mean, they were still trying to operate and sort of keep things going, but then their bank account was seized, and so they said, well,
No money to pay anybody.
Guess we're done.
All those people are going to Dubai. I bet they have a real nice place for them there.
Yeah, that's probably true.
That's all expense paid. Dubai's expensive.
Yeah, that's probably culture shock. You're right, because of the cost differential and just everything.
And plus, what about their exchange rate? Are they going to pay them in Dubai money?
Probably.
That's interesting. That's going to have tax implications.
What if you're a female employee from Russia?
They'll probably be able to ignore the tax implications.
But Russia, as much as it is sort of turtle shelling and rejecting the rest of the world en masse, they do have some things that they can't get rid of because it would probably lead to revolution.
Russia says that it's not planning to block YouTube or cut itself off from the internet.
We literally just tested this. There's that guy from Russia who does videos with his family, the Adorables or whatever, and he is still posting. He's been posting like once a week.
But for sure, they're not getting paid, right? Because Google cannot.
Yeah, I wouldn't think they're getting any money from their channel right now.
Is he getting a bunch of mysterious packages from Dubai?
Not that I saw on the 5 videos we looked at.
And India kind of following the Chinese playbook here, huh?
Yeah.
This is a lot of the same steps that China started with, and look where they are now.
India says the VPN firms that are unwilling to comply with new rules will have to pull out. The new rules are basically, we really want to know who's using a VPN service, and we also want to know what they're doing on the VPN service.
And you have to register your name and like something else too, right?
Yeah.
So VPN can protect you maybe from the advertisers and stuff, but not from the long arm of the Indian government. They will know. And if they don't know, you're going to get rid of them. ExpressVPN said, well, we probably can't do that business like that. But I don't know. VPN companies do have a tendency to give in eventually. We've seen, actually, didn't we see almost this exact same thing a couple years ago?
Yep.
Are they just rolling this out again to scare us?
No, it was with key fobs. Now it's with Bluetooth.
Just because we've moved into a new realm. It's the same attack.
New Bluetooth hack can unlock your Tesla and all kinds of other devices. All it takes to hijack Bluetooth secured devices is custom code and $100 in hardware. Turns out your Bluetooth phone is in the house. All somebody really needs to do is just repeat it and or find where you are, and then look at that, you're close to your car. We don't have to decrypt the signal. We just have to get it from A to B.
So before they were doing this further up the stack, this is at the link layer, which they claim is fast enough that the timeout will no longer stop it from happening. So, bad news. They do point out that, it's kind of the same as lockpicks. If someone really wants into your car that bad, they know where it is and they know you, it's going to happen.
Good Lord, we have a lot of stories left.
This is a long section. It's a lot of news.
That's what the people demand.
Some people.
another article I feel like we've seen before, right?
Yep.
And every
Yeah.
year they roll this out because every year nothing gets better.
The passwords used by most CEOs are startlingly dumb. I can't say
You almost
that
got
word.
it.
You're 0 for 3 on that.
Startlingly.
That's a strikeout.
Starting. Now I can't say.
Wow.
I've infected you.
Startlingly.
Startlingly. Was it startlingly?
I mean, that's a kind of a clip way of saying it, but I think it's technically close
Now
enough.
that you've messed it up, now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I've been perceiving it wrong this whole time.
I would say
It's startling. I can't pronounce a word correctly.
Wow, you got all of it. Like just adding the ly is what gets you, huh?
Yeah.
Startlingly.
That's pretty close, I would say. But they point out, obviously, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, monkey. There's just a lot of really dumb stuff. What they recommend, if they kind of danced around this, but what they're basically saying is, if you're that stupid, the best thing you can do is come up with a phrase in your head and choose 3 words from that phrase and use those 3 words in combination.
2-factor.
Well, that too. They didn't even get it done. Come on. Let's say you're the guy, you're the IT person who has to demand that the CEO set up his 2-factor, and he says, "I'm not doing that."
That's my life every day. Correct horse battery staple. That's the only way to go.
It's kind of what they're suggesting. And RCS is the new SMS, and it's exciting because it can now add emojis and pictures and media and all kinds of nonsense that's integrated into it. So, of course, what do they immediately use it for?
Google Messages RCS is being used for ads in India. That's all there is to this story.
We really hates it.
Look at this beautiful stuff you could be getting in your phone. Oh, it's so good.
I hate it all.
Terrible. They're not sure what they're going to do about it. And we have learned so much about supply chain attacks. We have people poisoning the well, the GitHub stuff. It's all a mess. What are we going to do about it? Well, I guess we centralize it under a very untrusted company. Is that what we're going to do?
Google will start distributing security-vetted collections of open-source software libraries. Popular package will be made available to Google Cloud customers in Q3 2022. It's a lot of words to basically say, hey, all these people that are attacking things like PyPy and the Node.js, repositories and all this open-source stuff, we probably should bring that into our stuff and monitor it for malicious changes. Yeah.
Now, here's my question to you. Without any sort of badness, let's say as it exists right now, there's no supply chain attack. Is there any possibility, even a 1% possibility, that YouTube DL gets into that list?
Oh, absolutely. It is 100% going into that list.
He's being sarcastic. And, Android, they are the force of freedom, right?
The naughty list, that is.
Sideloading is not allowed in the walled garden of Apple. But
This makes me sad.
the free wild west of Google, you can do that kind of crazy stuff.
Oh, wait.
Because they're pro-user.
Oh.
But
Total Commander forced to stop letting you install APKs. This dev took action following a Play Store policy complaint. So Total Commander was like a file browser thing. You could browse files that you've already downloaded. You could use it to install an APK. It's like, oh, that's an APK. I can install that. The Google policy technically says you're not supposed to manage updating your app on your own. It's supposed to go through the Google Play API. So he said, okay, I will block installing my own APK so somebody can't self-update it. Google said, no, I don't think you understand what we're trying to tell you.
no APKs must be moved. I never used Total Commander. I use Norton Commander and Xtree Gold.
I think that's what that's named for, is
Yeah.
the old Norton Commander days.
But we're talking about DOS.
Yeah.
This was literally back in the days of a command line. You young whippersnappers don't know this pain. Back in the days of command line, I was like, oh God, I wish there was a visual way I could move my files around. That's what this was. And on something like Android, where you get no access to the file system, super convenient, right?
Yeah.
But you can't have it.
Because the Android is still super, super buggy unless you're using Google Drive or something. It's like, I would like to save this to the local memory on the phone. It's like, no, you don't want to do that.
What's that?
And then later, when you go to try to find that, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing here.
It's the same way on the Apple iPad. Saving files and
Yeah.
moving them around, it's a pain in the ass.
I don't know what happened to that file. Was there maybe some CSAM in it?
Don't threaten me, phone.
And
Don't
speaking
tase
of,
me, bro.
speaking of naughty images, it's nice to see when ransomware strikes, somebody finally had a good backup, and they knew they had a good backup.
National bank hit by ransomware trolls hackers with naughty pics.
Eggplant pics.
I like how they did the actual eggplant instead of the emoji.
Yeah.
We all knew what it meant.
And they also gave them a little phrase, which we won't repeat, but they instructed them what they could do to the eggplant.
The editor of this article had a good time because one of the subheadlines here is a testicular response.
Don't read it, but we'll put it on the screen shortly. I like how they said this, as in this particular one. Yeah. This is the one we want. So good on them. They're going to put it all back together because they had good backups, I think. And having good backups is very important. In this case, these people, they had backups, but they were a pain to actually work back through. They did not have a good restore policy.
Angry IT admin that had wiped the employer's database gets 7 years in prison. I think we covered the story when it first broke. And
That sounded familiar.
7 years seems a little excessive, but ooh. Yeah.
But how about this mitigating factor? Some of those people went for 2 months without a paycheck because of this guy.
Yeah, that would make me angry.
That's rough.
I mean, you could also make the argument that the company would be at fault for that, because how could you not have an emergency policy for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be the biggest. I mean, the guy should be punished, but why isn't the company being punished?
That's exhausting.
Because we have unelected bureaucrats running all the agencies. And as bad as our government is, it is not quite in the same level of turmoil that Costa Rica's government is.
Ransomware gang threatens to overthrow Costa Rica government.
So they're pretty crippled by this ransomware. This is a new government that has stepped in, I think, and only been in office for a week. He inherited this mess. And he's doing his best, but it's not going well. Not at all. He says we're at war, and that's not an exaggeration. I guess it's got to feel like that, right? What do you do? And here's a nice story to terrify you. We've always known that this was a thing. Obviously, how else do they do all that tracking and find my phone and all that nonsense? But you count on that internal Apple security. It's like, no, it's fine. But how, Apple? How's it fine? No, you're not allowed to see that. It's just fine.
Researchers devise iPhone malware that runs even when the device is turned off. Research is largely theoretical, but exposes an overlooked security issue. I was ready to call BS on this article, but no, it turns out even when your iPhone is dead, it reserves enough power to keep Find My iPhone and the AirTag stuff working.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. It's like if somebody steals your phone, it can still be tracked and located. Other phones will report in where it was. But it turns out that the security processor that's doing that, you can co-opt that. You can run your own code on that.
And no amount of iPhone security updates are going to change that once it's in.
I bet you that the Pegasus people know that, the NSO group.
I'm sure they do, yeah. I'm sure they use it quite a bit.
You think anybody inside Apple even has a clue to look for that kind of stuff?
They do now.
You think they will? Or do you think it's like, those people are expensive?
Well, we've seen a lot of recent problems with Apple where they did seem to take that approach of just like, nobody's ever going to do this.
And then...
Yeah. I mean, you've got people like NSO out there, right? You have to always think, no, they will do everything that they can.
Yeah.
And they might be better than us at it. That's the terrifying part. It's not us as in us. I'm talking about Apple saying that.
Yeah.
And, you know what my favorite thing about the internet is? Newsletter signups.
Advertising, influencer marketing.
For the life of me, I cannot figure out who wants all these newsletters. Like, is there something out there, some person out there who wakes up every day and they're like, today's the day for the Google newsletter, the Best Buy newsletter.
I love when you're looking at a project and it's like this project, or you're working on a project and it obviously costs millions of dollars. And then you get, 5 seconds later, you get the overlay with the newsletter sign up. It's just like, I know that the people that built this knew better than to put this here. Who in the food chain demanded this? They need to be fired.
Clients demanded a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, please.
Yeah.
Well,
no one cares.
We've been in that position.
If they hire you for more than like 7 figures, pushing into 8 figures, you have to tell them that that's really stupid.
That doesn't mean they listen.
Yeah,
though. I mean, how often have we run into that? You think when you get to a certain tier of client that like, they're They must have made money for a reason. They
No.
must be intelligent, and the answer is no.
I need a newsletter sign up.
It's like your users are going to hate this and you're going to lose a lot of them. They're going to just go away. And they're like, no, we need that. They want that because they want that data. They want it almost more than anything, and they'll do anything to get it.
They also want to perpetuate the fraud because like people will just put in nonsense. They're like, we've got a 1% engagement rate. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And because of that, they know that as soon as that thing pops up, a lot of people are going to leave. But apparently some people also question it right before they hit the submit button. Like they type it in, they're like, should I do it? No, I won't play this game. And they figured out a clever way around that.
Ad tech firms grab email addresses from forums even before they're submitted. Researchers find widespread harvesting of info without consent.
This has been going on for years.
Real surprise that this article doesn't mention the mouse movement.
Yeah.
All of these ad agencies are producing heat maps of where your mouse cursor is. So like if you use the mouse cursor and you follow along with the titles, it recorded that, and that is submitted to an analytics package somewhere.
But they, they list all the companies, and like you say, they're focusing on one tiny bit of this, but these are session replay companies. So it's not just what they're saying here is when you type in your email address in that box, they get it before you hit submit. And if you do not get hit submit, they can also get that. But it's not really targeted toward that. It's just a matter of them recording everything that you're doing. And they point out, yes, because they're like, you think that respects the password field?
No.
Not at all. Every keystroke, including the passwords, going over the analytics.
Yeah, this was actually a security issue a couple of years ago. I think Chrome now doesn't send that or makes that more invisible to JavaScript. But a lot of these engines, the way that they are implemented is to try to get around ad blockers. And so they try to make their JavaScript look like it runs with the page instead of its ad-related JavaScript. So you may end up picking up the password anyway.
For those of you who maybe don't work in web development, enjoy those nightmares.
Yeah. It's
what
can you do about it?
What organization do you think Congress has delegated the authority to investigate that kind of danger?
They're making a new one right now.
So it's like, I mean, it's the digital equivalent of having drains on the street, but no manhole covers on it. Like, what would be a good analogy there? Like, you walk along the street and you could just step into a hole and not realize it.
Nah, because it's not the street. At the end of the day, it is a private business. So it's like a storefront on the street. And if you walk by, sometimes a robot just grabs you and drags you inside and forces you to buy a meal.
It takes your stuff, like it grabs your scarf or your purse. Or
I think a better analogy is like it comes over and it grabs you and it goes through your pockets, but it doesn't steal anything. It just takes pictures of everything that you have.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good analogy. That'll make old people understand that.
And as you walk up and down the street, eventually you get robbed, but it's not clear which one of them robbed you.
Yeah, perfect.
And the whole time it's doing that, it's whispering like reassuring things to you. It's like, oh, you're so good looking. I love you. And it's just like taking all your stuff.
Don't you have good taste for walking past this storefront?
Have you been working out? And our final story, a shocker. This is going to shake you to your core because there is a massive security issue and you'll never guess who's responsible.
Massive WordPress JavaScript injection campaign. I can't even make it through the headline without laughing. It redirects to ads. Everybody uses WordPress. WordPress has got garbage security architecture. Hence this.
Great targeted advertising over here, huh?
Email course, WordPress security.
So yeah, WordPress, in case you don't know, is garbage and you should avoid it at all costs.
They put all of their points into convenience. There's no points in security.
I'm amazed WordPress is still a thing, but
People like it. There's a whole thread on the forum that's like, why is it terrible? And then there's a lot of people that are like, you have no idea.
We've learned that the WordPress core, while probably the worst, is not as bad, but as soon as you start adding extensions, forget about it.
It sounds gatekeepery, but people that really shouldn't be doing that have some very popular extensions, and that leads to problems.
well, this WordPress advertises itself as like super user friendly and like it's going to be great, and then
That it's not.
you get people who don't know what they're doing adding all these extensions.
It's real easy to set up.
Yeah.
It's definitely that.
Of course, that's true of other things too. I mean, I've certainly cleaned up my fair share of code from other people that have worked on things that are harder that have also really screwed it up.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of shopping carts that are bad about that.
Yeah.
It's all bad.
What do we got for tomorrow?
By the way, only 44 minutes.
Oh, I
You
felt
guys-
so much
You guys
longer.
acted like it was taking forever.
It felt like a long episode. There was a
really
lot
did.
of stories.
That's average, yeah.
Tomorrow we're going to have business, and I guess we'll do social.
Woo!
We'll see you guys then. Bye! Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today's May 25th, and we're doing business and social. Right? So,
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
So much business news.
And it's not been a great week for businesses, especially tech businesses.
The Great Recession begins.
A bit of a downturn
Depression.
for them.
There's going to be a depression.
And
Recession plus depression. So can we make some sort of portmanteau of that?
that's, yeah, there's definitely a word for that, right?
The second Great Depression.
Stagflation.
All right, no, can the two, I don't know if the two can coexist. I think once you go into a depression, you're out of the recession.
Yeah, depression is worse.
Yeah. So recession is the gateway drug
Yeah.
of depression.
Both economically and emotionally.
But here, you know what? Here's the lead in. You know what those two things have in common? They'll make you cancel Netflix.
Netflix customers are canceling service increasingly includes their long-term subscribers. I have set up a Plex media server with the intent of seeing if mom will use that instead of Netflix with the intent of
Don't
canceling
admit
Netflix.
that. What are you doing?
It's my DVD collection. I have an extensive DVD collection
We own
from when that was a thing.
That doesn't make that okay, and you know it. So Netflix, up until this point, they have been adamant. They're like, yeah, there's churn, but that churn is like new people. We have our rock solid Netflix OGs, and nobody can take them away from us.
Well, except for this chart, seems to disagree with that.
That blue portion, well, everything above the blue portion, that's the OGs.
I think I am a Netflix OG. I think I'm. Yes, my account dates to the DVD mailing stuff.
My aunt and uncle got it in those days, and they would tell it like, "Oh, we mail in a thing, and they send us a DVD." And I was like, "That's ridiculous. That's never going to take off."
I think I still have my account, but I'm not paying them. Do you think they still count that? They're probably not allowed to. Right?
Probably not.
But I will let me open it back up anytime I want
Yeah.
because they still have my viewing data in there. They're definitely selling that still.
Seems like it would be in their best interest to offer like a $1 or $2 plan that lets them have the stuff they don't even have to license. It's just the most,
Like their originals and stuff.
like just the most bottom rung swill ever.
Well, there's going to be the. Will they give the whole library to the ad-supported tier?
I mean, why isn't there a streaming service that has just the most ancient garbage tier television?
Oh, there is. There's one like just for old people. It's all like Andy Griffith and Gunsmoke.
Is it like $1 a month?
I think it's ad-supported.
That would be perfect. I need that.
Yeah, somebody can point. I'm positive that exists. Somebody in the comments will tell you what the name
Pep
is.
wants to know your location. He's been dead for a long time, but he wants to know.
There are also TV channels that do that now. Just old stuff.
Only 4x3. It's like Mr. Ed. And,
Oh, not even. I'm talking black and white.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all cowboy shows, and then around noon, what was it? Price is Right. You don't touch the TV when the Price is Right is on.
Green Acre. And not this Drew Carey Price is Right.
Yeah, old Price
Bob
is
Barker.
Right. Yeah.
Bob Barker when he was young.
Yeah. Well,
That's what I want.
Price is wrong, Bob.
Netflix is not going to give you that. You're going to have to go somewhere else for that.
Seems like they're not thinking outside the box is their problem, not so much,
Thinking outside the ancient box. The World War II footlocker. You got to think inside the World War II footlocker. Now this is, I've only included one story here, but this was a whirlwind this week.
Yeah.
We had the New York Times hit piece. That was last week, though.
That
Wasn't
was
it?
was
like
last
2
week.
weeks ago, yeah.
And then we had the SpaceX causes pollution.
That was ridiculous.
Just recently, I didn't add it. It just happened. Was the sexual harassment on the plane? Have you
Again.
seen that one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
he
one.
flashed himself.
I just, come on.
And
I think that one's legit.
and then we had Tesla was kicked out of the S&P 500. Now you might think, I know why they did all those things. No. CNBC is here to tell you The real reason has nothing to do with whatever you're thinking.
Why Tesla was kicked out of the S&P 500's ESG index. Now, is it they were kicked out of the S&P 500, or is this ESG index something different than the
All right,
S&P?
yeah, the ESG index is just for like the good behavior.
Feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason is because they don't have enough green energy credits and poor management.
And racism.
Oh, and racism, yeah.
Yes, they think that his racist hiring policies, and he doesn't have a code of conduct that lays all of these crazy rules out.
So is Chevron still here with the guy that they had house arrested for years and they bribed the judge?
It's Exxon.
Oh, okay.
Exxon is in there. Yes, too. As is Apple. Yeah. ExxonMobil, Microsoft, Amazon.
What are a few kidneys?
Didn't Amazon just let a bunch of people die in their factory during a tornado?
Didn't Amazon just fight with Biden?
Oh my gosh. What is going on?
Yeah, there was a tornado. Has anybody died at the Tesla factory? Maybe in China.
Yeah, I think so. Didn't they? Because they had all those people out in the heat wave working, remember?
It was
I
not
don't know if anyone died.
not so much a death as an unexpected kidney surplus.
Ugh.
An organ storm, as they call it. It's something. It's not the way that the world has turned on Elon Musk is just astonishing.
I think that's been coming for a while.
No, but I would agree. He's a terrible, terrible person. He deserves everything that he's getting, but not for the reasons that he's getting it. And up until this point, he was their darling.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, anybody that watches this program knows that we don't, we're not Musk worshipers, but this demonstrates a level of manipulation and insanity that's just.
I don't see this and think to myself, "Oh, poor Elon Musk." I see this and think, "Oh God, that could be any of us."
Yeah,
that could be any person. If you go on the wrong side of these people, this is what they will do to you.
Well, that could be the person that actually has the solution for what ails modern society. It's like, well, he has the solution, but it's going to be disruptive to the status quo, so we really need to destroy him.
I think that's exactly.
I don't think he's that disruptive.
Yeah, I don't think.
He's still operating under the very same.
But should that person materialize, the systems that we've built will just sort of crush them without a second thought.
What if here's a crazy thought. What if somebody completely outside the system managed to get in the presidency?
That will not be tolerated.
Well, so we have seen the Facebook metaverse. It doesn't really exist yet, but we've seen kind of what they think it's going to be. We've seen the Sony version of it. Again, they haven't really showed us a lot, but they have kind of a roadmap.
It's going to be great, though. You're going to love it.
Yeah. Then we've seen Microsoft has HoloLens, and that's like nobody knows what that is. So now it's
People
Apple's.
actually have that, though.
Yeah, that's true. It's closer than this. So now it's Apple's turn, and have they showed us anything? No, not us. Surprisingly, the public does not get to see this, but
Apple reportedly showed off its mixed reality headset to its board of directors. I was really hoping for some leaked,
There's nothing.
There's nothing.
They mentioned that before. I think they did was it the iPhone? They did the same thing, and then a year later it released. So they're thinking maybe in a year we'll have this.
Now on the modern iPhones and the M1 iPads, the AR kit from Apple is actually genuinely very impressive. But I'm a little startled because I haven't really seen a lot of good apps that are built around that kind of stuff. I think augmented reality wayfinding to get you from a parking lot to where you need to be inside a large building would be huge, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of stuff out there doing that kind of thing yet.
Well, they did admit one thing, which is probably going to make it less usable for what you just described. They confirmed it is going to be projection onto an internal lens, not a see-through lens to the outside. Cameras on the outside projecting. So you're locked inside a helmet there.
We had that with the demo helmet that we had, because when we were we had the conference room cleared out and we were in there. When you turn the cameras on, it was this sort of weird, trippy, running 100 milliseconds behind, video feed of what you would be looking at if it wasn't on your head.
You want to walk down the street like that?
It was just
I got time before this car comes.
You're gonna step off a curb and not see it and twist your ankle and fall face first and shatter your $3,000 headset.
I was thinking a car.
That's the other thing, $3,000, right?
Yeah, that was what it said in the article. They didn't know yet, but they estimated that the price point was going to be $3,000.
I mean, that is pretty steep.
I mean, when television was new and people bought a television, it was $3,000, but it lasted more than a year or two.
Right.
Yeah, and they didn't invent a completely incompatible new television 6 months later. And Apple has to do something to refresh their phones because, as we all know, the phone world is stagnating. Might have something to do with that inflation issue that we've been talking a lot about.
Oh,
So-
foreshadowing.
They're getting on that the foldable bandwagon, but they're Apple, right? They got to separate themselves. How do you create something that's already been created and make it your own?
Apple's reportedly testing e-ink outer display for upcoming foldable. Woo.
Something everybody asked for.
So, yeah, the foldable phone, you don't want to unfold it every time because it's only going to have a certain number of lifetime folds, right? So you got to have that outer display to give you your heads up. Even though, aren't you already, if you're a true Apple aficionado, don't you already have the Apple Watch to tell you that? But that is super low power. That screen could probably stay on all the time, right?
Yeah, e-ink. Yeah,
That'd be great.
definitely can.
That would be one nice feature. Don't have to wake it up. And I think you mentioned this last week, but now we have the official story about it. And it's the App Store is, they're taking some liberties.
Apple is now letting developers automatically charge for some subscription price increases. The economy is so volatile, we're all getting those little service fees, those little dings.
Everywhere.
We're getting notices. It's like, we're going to add a $2 administrative fee or a $3 economy fee. Apple is doing the same, or permitting their developers to do the same, to make it easier. It's part of the value add.
Yeah. The value of you taking more of my money and me not having a say in that.
Well,
You do
can
have get
vote with your
notified.
wallet.
You get notified, but you don't have to confirm it.
Yeah.
Which kind of flies in the face of all of their other payment lockdown stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird. I guess they're still getting their 30% of that, aren't they?
Yep.
And Apple has announced that they're going to go back to the office. They're going to do 3 days a week. Or was it 1 day into 3 days or 3 days into more?
I think it was 3.
Yeah, I think it was a lot. I was surprised it was so aggressive.
Yeah, well, you weren't the only one that was surprised. And Apple, in turn, was surprised to find out their employees didn't care for that.
Too little, too late. Apple reverses the remote work policy after machine learning head decamps, I love that word, to Alphabet.
It's a nice word.
This is also the same person that wrote the scathing memo that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where it said, it's like, okay, I understand the return to work, but let department heads and managers figure that out. If it makes sense for the department to come into the office, let's make that decision at a managerial level or the people that you work directly with.
Now, Google actually also has a very similar policy right now, but they will let you negotiate if you feel like there's a reason that you should work from home full time. And I have a feeling that one of the allowable excuses for that is I was the head of machine learning at Apple, and you have to give me anything that I want.
What if they don't verify him? They're like, oh, he didn't work here.
He actually used to work at Google,
Oh,
so he's
just ping ponging back and forth.
he's going through that revolving door and just grabbing cash.
He's
It's
living the dream, really.
It's a revolving door that's just like filled with cash and a fan, and he's just running through it, stuff in his
Grabbing it.
pockets, feeling good, making all kinds of machine learning.
Woo!
And Microsoft, as usual, looks at what's happening to its brethren and says, we better get ahead of that.
Microsoft will boost pay and stock compensation to retain employees. This article says that fresh hires from Microsoft make $163,000 a year.
It said that they were doubling their budget to do this as well.
Yeah.
Like the budget they put aside for this.
For retention. So if you
Yeah.
work for Microsoft, now might be the time to ask for a raise. Gosh, to have that kind of cash in your war chest, it's like, I guess we can do this.
Maybe we should pay the plebs.
Do we need a third yacht?
And Sony, as we noted last week, they are getting ready for the metaverse. They're doing this whole new thing. They're doing subscription. They're changing it all, and it's all part of this online world.
Sony readies for metaverse revolution with cross-platform push. This is a Reuters article. It almost reads like paid placement for Sony. There is nothing substantial in this article except they're going to bring V-Bucks. They're going to bring V-Bucks. V-Bucks are coming.
And NFTs.
And NFTs.
Oh, thank goodness. I was really worried about the NFT part.
But how about another company where we take something old that people might have just a hint of nostalgia for, and we take it like a sausage casing and stuff it with NFTs, and just disgustingly stuff it with things that no one wants.
Napster gets bought again, this time with a Web3 pivot in the works. It's going to be NFTs.
Yay.
Blockchain Napster.
They're somehow sticking with music. I don't know exactly how that works.
We have a similar story about someone else doing NFTs and music.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? That's an
So
immediate.
should we sort that
immediate
Yeah.
resort, because I guess that, I just said I don't know why they're doing that. I imagine they read this, right?
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
why they're doing that.
Spotify experiments with musician NFT galleries. You can view NFT collections from Steve Aoki and the Wombats if you're part of the test.
I'm not cool enough to know who Steve.
I've heard that
Aoki
name, but
or
I'm
the
not sure who
Wombats.
he is. Grimes does NFTs, but doesn't have anything like that on her profile. But it also mentioned that videos and GIFs don't work.
I think Kiss
So-
was the original group to do this in the 70s. Because when you joined the Kiss Army, you got your card, and it was like your Kiss Army soldier number whatever.
Oh, they monetized everything.
But I was thinking about that with this, because it's like, what if you're, the Weird Al Army soldier, whatever, and he had the NFT and it was like $5.
Would you
And-
pay for that?
Yeah, and as it increases, it's like you're Army fan number 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth.
But would you be able to sell that?
Yeah.
Does he want his army to be able to be sold and replaced? And like, what if his number one soldier?
If he takes 30%, why not?
I don't know if Weird Al would do that. Weird Al's got to be loaded, right?
Yeah, I don't
What do you
think
think
Weird
he's
Al would
worth?
care. Probably in the tens of millions.
It might be more than that.
You
Maybe.
think?
He's probably getting a lot of residuals, right? Although he does have to pay the original recorder, the whoever wrote
Artist,
the
yeah.
song, right? Is
Yeah.
that how that works?
I don't know. Something like that.
I
He's
bet Weird
probably
Al.
pretty comfortable.
I bet he's super good with his money. Like he's probably saved almost everything.
Yeah.
Does he have kids?
Yes.
That's a
Weird
That's
Al,
a
I'd like
weird
to
way to grow up,
subscribe
isn't it?
to Weird Al facts.
Weird Al's a fascinating guy. When's that movie coming out?
Soon.
Well, Netflix, they don't know what to do. They've canceled all of their new shows. That seems to be their emergency button. It's just like, no, cancel all the projects. And they look around and they're like, who's successful right now? Live streaming? Yeah, let's do that.
Netflix exploring live streaming for the first time, plans to roll out for unscripted series and stand-up specials. They've discovered reality TV. Reality TV is very low budget, and it helped cable TV be on life support for a few years. This is not a good trend.
Yeah.
I just got clickbaited, but look at what a great article. Remember the PlayStation 1? Remember how exciting Twisted Metal was?
Oh yeah.
They're going to make that a movie?
Ew.
Twisted Metal,
little
Nev
sick to my
Campbell
stomach.
cast and Peacock's live action video adaptation.
Who gets to be the clown? The clown's one everybody likes.
Yeah,
right?
the clown truck. I don't even know a whole lot about Twisted Metal, but everyone loved the clown truck.
Gary Busey.
I would be a good clown, actually. He might be a little too old for it.
They can deep fake him.
That might be above the budget that they have for Twisted Metal. Did Sony own that?
Didn't they say it was a PlayStation game?
Well, that was definitely a PlayStation game. I don't know if it's first party or if they've got the license to it. I'm sure that article would tell us, but we didn't have time to read it. It was a clickbait. It was a live.
Live clickbait.
Yeah. And just as we found out that the video cards might be coming back, we might be getting some cheap video cards. They do this to us. However, that 50% decline in the price of Bitcoin could have a stronger effect on the market, I feel. So maybe we don't have to worry too much about this right now.
NVIDIA's light hash rate limiter has fallen, but gamers shouldn't worry. So now it doesn't matter if you have an LHR. Nice Hash has figured out a way around it, and they will mine at full speed.
Two cards, I think it's the 3080 Ti. I don't know if I have the Ti or not. But and the 3050 will not. But the software is nice enough. It will get you to 70%, and then for the other 30, they'll mine a different coin automatically, just to help you out.
Nice. Because there's extra capacity there.
And they can't do the whole 100 for whatever reason, those two cards. But I'm sure they will figure that out very shortly. And this is certainly, the new dystopia. People they want passive income. And who can blame them? It's a beautiful thing. What's better than that? But does it get to the point where we're actually just cannibalizing our way of life to
Yes.
chase that?
Absolutely. New York now has more Airbnb listings than apartments for rent. In a thing that surprised no one.
I had a friend who came and visited from like the Columbus area, and she said there's not very many apartments anymore. It's everyone just making Airbnbs. It's huge up there.
Now, they did count both houses Airbnbs and apartment Airbnbs versus just apartments, but it's still a pretty striking number.
Well, that affects the housing market too. Like if there's no houses to buy because everyone just converts it into an Airbnb.
I'm immediately taken by more clickbait.
I also saw that.
I'm not going to do it.
And I was like, I want to click on it, but
So far, I have resisted any of the fast food delivery or food delivery apps.
I have
you guys
as well.
used them?
Well, because I live in the middle of
I
nowhere.
think they will do it though out to us. It'll just be, absolutely
Expensive.
complete. No, it'll be that cold. By the time you get it, it's going to be like a 2-hour old burger.
I haven't used any of the ones that require you to install an app, but I want to say that like 6 months ago, I was really, really sick and I gave in and it was absurd, but I was able to do it through the web.
It's
How
like
long did
$20.
it take to get to you?
About 30 minutes.
Was it cold?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a terrible experience, but it can be made worse by the marketing team.
Grubhub was getting 6,000 orders a minute during its promo that left restaurant workers stressed and customers hangry.
This was in New York, I believe.
Yeah, It's like, we're going to waste a bunch of money on free lunch. We needed a tax write-off, so we'll pay for the lunch.
Yeah, there was some statistic that was like the average New Yorker doesn't eat lunch. It was like 70%. So like, let's do this. So they ran this promotion, but it completely overwhelmed every restaurant in the area.
Who could have seen that coming?
If only they had analytics on all of the data.
What was it, like $15 free? $15?
Yeah. But like the delivery fee is usually like $20. So it's like you're not even getting that much of a difference. They also, of course, didn't tell any of the restaurants that they were going to run this promotion. So everyone was like, where the hell are all these orders coming from?
I was watching a baseball game, oddly enough. I was exposed to baseball, and the current modern baseball, they have so much telemetry. It's actually interesting because they know so much about what's going on. And they'll show these stats and it's like, oh, let's look at the top 5 for exit velocity off the plate. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting. I kind of like all that.
Maybe you're just getting old.
Maybe. Yeah. I did watch quite a bit of it. But the crazy thing about it was Chicago. They were at the Chicago park and they had this big banner in the back and it said, here was the dystopia. Tickets $10, parking $15.
Well, theoretically, there's mass transit, right? Like you could get there via mass transit.
But that was just shocking. That was the price they were proud of. They're like, look how cheap this parking is. It's only $15. So, yeah. I imagine a New York Grubhub delivery. What do you think the average is? Probably what, 25 for that for one person?
How long is the average baseball game? Is $15 more than minimum
They
wage?
feel like eternity.
They last a long time.
Okay.
And plus they don't want you to get there. They want you to come early, and it's basically a little mall. And the parks are like, there's all kinds of stuff in the parks now.
So $15 is probably slightly less than minimum wage for parking.
In Chicago?
Per hour? You're going to park way more than an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like anybody has to do anything, though. But I think you also are competing. Like there's so many other businesses in the park that some people are there not for the baseball.
Huh. Okay.
It's crazy world.
They're paying to go shop, which is
Or to a restaurant. They have like nice restaurants in those places now.
What happened to
Peak
parking validation? So will you validate my parking?
Yeah, you would think that your baseball ticket would count as parking validation.
no. You can double dip this way.
What, double dip? They're dipping more than the tickets
Yeah.
is. I think the $10 was a promotion, though. And Joe Biden, boy, he needs some wins, doesn't he? And maybe this will be one for him because we know we need manufacturing here in this country.
The AP reports that Hyundai is set to build a $7 billion Georgia plant during Biden's visit.
He's visiting South Korea.
So
Making electric cars.
that's Georgia, the U.S. state, not the country. Just in case that wasn't obvious.
Not sure if Georgia has any electric car plants. The country, I mean. And we have some good news about open source software because that is a constant fight that we must never leave alone.
Software Freedom Conservancy wins big. That's a big step forward for open source rights. They sued Vizio because Vizio has used GPL code in their TVs. And the court ruled that, yes, that is both a copyright license and a contractual agreement. If you use copyright code and you make changes to it, you got to release your source. They wouldn't release the source. The court's going to force them to.
Now, here's a question for you. Why would Vizio not want to open source that software? Is there something in there they don't want us to know about?
You mean the thing that advertises ads, tries to fingerprint TV and stuff like that?
The tracking and the algorithms and the ads. Yes, I think that is probably what they're trying to
I
protect.
can produce my own firmware that's not garbage.
No, says Vizio. You cannot. And we talked about, I don't know if it was this company, but it was a very similar company. And I said, there's no way that they deliver like opiates and narcotics, right? And people in the comments were like, oh yeah, I get that delivered for sure. And
Got
apparently
some bad news for you.
a better name, Cerebral is, that's an interesting name. I think a better name for this company would have been 1-800-Adderall.
Telehealth startup Cerebral has halted its controlled substance prescriptions. Cerebral is under investigation by the DOJ and the DEA. Turns out you can't just FaceTime somebody and get some Adderall. That's not a good idea.
It's surprising that ever worked, even for the short period it did.
And, I'm sure it was quite popular. One of the nurses was like, I'm not sure if I'm qualified to be giving people Adderall.
The way I understand it, at least, I have a family friend who's a nurse practitioner, and she can prescribe just about everything except for controlled substances that might be like addictive in some capacity. So I don't know how that they even got around that in the first place.
I mean, Adderall is for sure addictive. It's amphetamine.
How did they get through any of this?
There's going to be some very upset college students and software engineers. Gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Just
Oh my God,
fill yourself with coffee. That's okay.
There's no close button on this.
Get more from your crypto. Start earning.
Okay, let's hurry before it comes back. Coinbase, they're having a bad time.
Coinbase slows hiring to help weather market downturn. They slowed the hiring. They didn't stop it. They did say that we're pretty much dependent on us using their deposits as capital to fund the business. They're under no obligation to pay you back should anything catastrophic happen. So, good luck.
But that will never happen. We would never have a major cryptocurrency that just fails.
We're just trying to weather the downturn.
And MasterCard is, they're a bit of a dinosaur in the payment world, right? What do they have to offer? They need something new, something hot, something to get the kids into it.
MasterCard launches a biometric wave to pay program. So,
yeah, that's right. So when you're checking out, it's a combination of facial recognition. I think the wave is just like the click, basically, to say that, no, I'm not just standing here passively. I'm paying.
What if you're waving to a friend?
And someone captures that on video and then replays it in front of a kiosk? Yeah, I imagine there's going to be some issues we will see about this.
MasterCard does not have the expertise to implement a biometric wave to pay program, and their contractors are probably the lowest bidders. So,
and yet they will.
6 months from now, we're going to do an update. It's like, do you remember that? That didn't go well. It's going to be in the security section.
Well, we've all wanted more chips, right? More chips to go around. I'm not sure the best way to bring about that was to lock down all of China. I think that might have other issues, some fallout from that, but that's what we got.
China chipmaker SMIC says that the phone and PC demand has dropped, quote unquote, like a rock. The CEO says that the global situation and the wars and the China lockdowns, they're 200 million handsets they expected to sell. They're not going to sell.
Yeah, it turns out you don't think about replacing your phone when you're locked in a building filled with disease.
And it turns out SMIC is one of the big producers. This is not some small company. They make handsets for a lot of brands.
Now, we did see a bit of an explosion after our lockdown ended of people refreshing their phones. Do you think we'll get another knock-on chip shortage as all of the Chinese people get back out and start doing stuff?
Maybe, or at least battery replacement, because that kind of thing was really hard on the batteries.
Well, right now they could keep them plugged in.
Well, that's kind of hard on them.
Yeah. You're using them a lot more.
To keep it at 100% all the time, it's like...
And while they might have had a very, very precipitous drop, it wasn't quite as bad as the auto industry.
No cars were sold in Shanghai. Why? The lockdowns.
I don't think a lot of anything was sold in Shanghai, including things like food.
But how long can a car company go with 0 sales per month?
You definitely don't think their business forecasting plans for that might even be insurance territory, like their business insurance or their business continuity insurance. That might kick in
An act of God.
because it's so catastrophic.
No, I think that's force majeure, right? Because that's
You can still have insurance for that. It's just costs more. It's a separate policy.
there's no way they had that insurance. And how much, Krista? How much do you hate the new CNET logo?
I actually don't mind it.
You
I
like
think it's
that?
very 60s. Yeah. I'm into it.
It does have kind of a terminal feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Except the middle of the N is too fat. That's unrealistic. But that's not what this article is about. And in fact, this article is really not about much of anything, but I included it because I think this is a harbinger. We're going to see. Remember when Disney bought Star Wars? We had Star Wars mascara, Star Wars
The little oranges. Yeah.
Star Wars Instant Pot. They are going to, Krista, they're going to take this thing that you love and they're just going to rub its face.
Commercialize it. Yeah.
Can't wait for Sam and Frodo's beans and peas seasoning.
They're not part of this. They're not even in this, Wendell. This is the second age.
No, this is Lord of the Rings. Free Lord of the Rings mobile game in the works from EA, which, you know, maybe there's maybe a glimmer of hope. It's like, well, maybe it could be good, and then you see EA and it's like, ooh, never mind. I'm not excited about the show at all.
Well,
but
you're not going to be excited because they don't tell us anything about this game.
this is literally a puff piece. This is marketing. This is promotion.
Collectible RPG with strategic and social elements that could describe like every game in existence.
But
Right?
they're gonna turn that into an NFT fest, I'm sure.
Are you going to try it?
No,
No?
I didn't play Shadow of War because it's canon.
Shadow of War was actually a pretty fun game, though. They had the Batman style combat
Yeah,
that Wendell sucks at.
because it requires rhythm.
Timing. Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
rhythm. But they are not alone in their push into gaming, the Lord of the Rings people and EA. I mean, EA was already part of gaming. A new contender.
TikTok reportedly plans a major push into gaming, and games live streamers could play with viewers. TikTok tested a Farmville-like app and a minigame last year. It went well.
Yeah, that's what we need, another Farmville.
This also helps them get around some of the, the time limit things that are happening in China. It's like, you can't use this for too long. It's like, oh, this is gaming now. It's like, okay, restart the timer.
Maybe you can pick up some new viewers on TikTok, some new followers if you do the gaming thing, because it can be difficult to get a new TikTok persona channel. Do you call it a channel? What do you call it? Feed?
I want to say, yeah,
Page?
like a TikTok profile channel.
Profile might be
Profile might be better. Channel doesn't seem right. I don't use TikTok. If you're a young person who uses TikTok, tell us old folks what it is.
Whatever it is, you want people on your TikTok. You need the clicks. You need the little. Are they the one that do the little animated hearts?
Yeah.
A lot of services have done that in the past.
You need those animated hearts. And if you're a serious TikToker, you will do anything to get it.
TikTokers are accused of starting forest fires for views.
Including arson. This is Pakistan?
Yeah.
At least it's not here.
Pakistan is, like most of the world, experiencing a crippling heat wave at the moment. And it's not a time that you want to start forest fires. Krista, you're a bit of a forester.
A little bit.
Is a heat wave a good time to start a forest fire?
No, absolutely. If it's dry, no. Everything will just go up like tinder.
Is there any time that is a good time to start a forest fire?
Well, never a good time to start a forest fire, but there are times that are better. Like if you're wanting to have a contained fire.
Oh,
at,
like a
your
controlled
campsite.
burn? Yeah.
Yeah.
What if I want maximum TikTok views?
If maximum TikTok views, you should really just go burn down a government building. I didn't say that.
So this young lady, she did, like a little music video where she was walking in front of the fire. But then they have this one, which is literally just guys starting a forest fire. And for some reason that gets hits.
Why are people the way they are?
Because they're desperate for attention. And that's one of the worst qualities a human being can have.
I have real mixed feelings about being perceived, and then there are people like this.
Yeah, so please don't burn the forest. And we know that Facebook is the social media for the old people. That is well established. I know plenty of old people that use Facebook and plenty of young people that don't for that very reason, which is why TikTok should not invite this, because once they show up, you are no longer cool.
Older people using TikTok to defy ageist stereotypes, research finds. There's an increasing number of accounts belonging to users aged 60 and older with millions of followers.
My mom has a TikTok account. She doesn't post on it, but she browses it.
You know who loves this news? Snapchat.
Snapchat is probably just freaking out right now. There's probably somebody just hyperventilating on the floor of the grand conference room.
One thing about social media, it points out some of the other horrible things about our society that might otherwise go unnoticed, because it gives you a platform to say, look how outrageous this is. Look how stupid this is. We should do something about this. Now, we all know that grocery stores or retail stores, they throw away a lot of food. A lot of food. They also throw away and destroy clothing, which is a little bit less understandable, because it's like, well, that doesn't expire.
That can be good for a long time.
Yeah, we could just keep that. Maybe recycle it. I don't know. But Target has taken it to a new level.
Viral TikTok shows a pile of new bikes in a Target dumpster. The big box store is under fire because stuff.
Did they say where this Target was? Because I'd love to get a free bike.
They were like kids' bikes, mostly.
I could make that work.
It was in the U.S. I did not notice
catch
where it was. Is this one of those? This is bicycling.com.
Yeah, I did notice where the website was. I just didn't know where this Target was, because I should be looking for bikes in their dumpster.
But they also, bicycle.com was constantly, I didn't realize that there's apparently, just like the chips, there's a massive bike part shortage. Mm-hmm. And they were saying like, oh, I just want those chains. Just give me those chains.
Our local bike shop went out.
Yeah.
Also, look at these prices.
Bikes, if it's a nice bike or an e-bike, they're really, really expensive.
You're telling me that you got a $4,000 bicycle?
It looks like it's got an electric assist.
Yeah, a lot of them, if they're e-bikes, they're a lot more
sense.
expensive.
Although, you know what? These are not the Target bikes, right? These are the bicycling.com bikes.
Yeah, that's all promotional stuff that gets injected into the article.
The Growler. But yeah, that seems like a weird thing to throw away.
Anyone in our chat, do you guys use e-bikes?
Ohio.
Oh, I could drive up there and get one.
You would for sure be prosecuted.
Yeah.
For theft. Yep.
Not if I wear a hat over my face.
You would forget and keep your phone in your pocket. And
and then I'd be done. No, I've listened to this program long enough. I know enough pro-criminal tips. I'd pull off a great bike heist from the Ohio Target.
And the newest tip, Krista, would be you don't turn it off. You leave it at home. Because they can track it when it's off. And Twitter's having a weird month for sure.
Yeah.
Having a tough time. It seems like it's being exposed that everything about their censorship was true. And it was exactly what everybody always accused them of doing. And they're proud of it. And they're going to keep doing it. You'd think that they would be like, all right, let's take a step back. No. They've doubled down.
Twitter will hide tweets that share false info during a crisis. Who decides what's false info?
Who decides what's a crisis?
Yeah, and how long does the crisis last? Is it like 30 minutes in and then, okay, embargo's up? Or do you have to wait an hour? Is it 24 hours? What's the rules?
If we assume that Twitter uses the same metric as the U.S. government, the crisis, for example, 9/11, is still happening. So you could hide it forever.
Wasn't that the thing for the Patriot Act? It was like the Patriot Act goes away when it's not a crisis anymore, and it's like, well, but
it's still a crisis.
And some people,
isn't it?
some of the apologists in the comments will be like, no, they let that lapse. They replaced it with a different one. Yeah. That's exactly the same. It's the same thing. And we have another terrible trend, and I try to leave this stuff out of it because it's not super tech related and it's just super depressing.
It's just depressing, yeah.
But this one has very clear tech tie-ins, and this is going to probably make all of our lives a little bit less happy.
New York Attorney General launches probe of Twitch and Discord after Buffalo shooting. You think that Discord, private Discords, are going to be jurisdiction? It's like, we need law enforcement monitoring private Discords.
For sure, and they're going to get the AI text filter.
Yeah.
It's coming.
A lot of people that play Call of Duty are going to get swept up in this. It's like, oh, it's Call of Duty, right, yeah.
He said shoot down Long A. Arrest him now.
I love those people talking about The Sims out of context, and it always sounds like they're murdering and planning horrible things for children.
I took the ladder out of the pool and they died.
Yeah, we're just talking about The Sims.
Excellent.
I don't know what the Discord equivalent of that excuse is.
All right, what do we got for Friday? There's a lot of nonsense this week.
You know what it is? It's robot nonsense.
Oh, it's a good section. We'll see you guys then.
Woo!
Bye. Hello. and welcome back to Level 1 News. Today's May 27th, and today we're doing robot and nonsense.
And space.
Yeah,
Because
space.
The robot section has been usurped by space because there's so much space news these days.
Robots in space.
Lots of exciting things. We keep launching new things into space, and now that we're doing that, we can do cool new things with them.
2 military satellites just communicated with each other using space lasers. How disappointed is Elon Musk? Because he always said that the Starlink satellites were going to communicate with each other using lasers soon.
They do not. Did he go ahead and equip them with lasers?
I believe that's what, I mean, it's something he said on Twitter. So, I mean, who knows?
Who knows if it's actually true? Yeah.
Well, the military did it first. They transmitted, I think, what was it, 200 gigabits of data.
I hope
but
it was a cat pic.
took 40 minutes. So
Not bad.
not super high bandwidth, but they don't really need to a lot of data doesn't need to be passed around the satellite. It's not like they're file sharing. But that's cool. I mean, it's cool, but it probably is going to be bad when they start to hunt us from the sky and send out the killer drones.
I wonder if any of those photons will make it somewhere else in about 1 million years. And they're just like, what are all these cat pictures?
No, they're
But
going
they're
to
only
say
like scraps of cat pictures. It's really confusing.
they're going to say this is adorable. We must I'll have an alliance with these people because these cats, we need them in our world to eat. And some of our old school space hits continue to pay off. And oh boy, is this one of the OGs still going strong.
Engineers investigating NASA's Voyager 1 telemetry data. In order for us to get telemetry data from Voyager 1, it has to be pointed exactly precisely at Earth. And we ask it what the coordinates are for pointing exactly precisely at Earth, and it's giving us some nonsensical answers, but there's the paradox of we're receiving the data, which physically indicates it's still pointing at Earth. But the data that it's giving us for where it thinks Earth is pointed doesn't make any sense.
And that is almost surely aliens.
Buy Bitcoin, panic.
And we do have some robots on Mars, and they are overachievers, to say the least.
NASA's Mars helicopter was supposed to fly 5 times. It's flown 28 times.
Do you think the first time when they hit number 6, they were like, let's just see if it does it. And then they kept doing it, and it keeps going up.
Well, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are entering into the very dusty, very cold, negative 100 degrees Fahrenheit Martian winter, and they're afraid this little guy is not going to be able to recharge his batteries because of the diffusion for his solar panels. So,
Rip little Mars helicopter.
Poor guy.
He made 28, and that's amazing, but he might never make 30. And we had the big UFO data thing. I think that happened while we were streaming.
We
last time.
teased it during the live stream. It was the next day.
They revealed pretty much nothing,
As usual.
as
Yeah.
most people predicted. But they say that they're committed.
U.S. officials say that the Pentagon is committed to understanding UFO origins. This is Reuters. Basically, the people are going on record now as saying they're real, they're unexplainable, we're looking into it.
They're not ours, and they're not anything we've seen from anybody else, but we don't know what they are. That's the answer that we have, and we've had for years, so it's nothing new.
Kind of disappointing.
You think maybe there is some sort of intergalactic federation, and they look at us and they're like, well, these guys would be backwater if we admitted them. Like, if we showed up, would it actually unite all of the different countries of the planet? Would we have, some sort of planetary organization in order to do things to participate in a larger galactic whatever? And they're probably saying, no, don't think that'll happen.
And idiots.
We can't actually make contact until they have free speech on Twitter.
That's what they're waiting for.
I mean, the level of technology they have, they probably know what we're thinking, and they know, and so it's just, there would be no deceiving them, and where everybody that would be put in charge of talking to them would immediately go is, can we get weapons? Can we kill all the other people that are not like us?
And they would lie.
Yeah, and it's just, but they would have the technology to see through that immediately, so the only winning move is not to play. Bold move, Galactic Federation.
They would come
assuming that they're egalitarian.
They would come and they'd be like, do you need help putting some of your leaders in the ground? Because we know that's what you do when they get that age. I don't understand why they're leading. And one thing that we're sure about when it comes to the robots, this is the robot section, and one thing we know with absolute certainty is that robots are extremely racist.
Extremely.
And we've always wondered, how can robots be racist when they're not even programmed to tell the difference? Turns out they don't need to be programmed. They are so inherently racist.
MIT and Harvard scientists find that AI can recognize race from X-rays, and nobody knows how. I'm going to give you a preview of our follow-up story. This is not the first time something like this has happened, probably the first time with X-rays, but the last time this happened, the thing was detecting people that had been malnourished as children. And so the AI learned to figure out if you had enough food while you were growing up or if you were poor while growing up, which was really interesting, but not what the people claimed. In this case, it might be something like, was the X-ray machine a really good one or was it a really cheap one? Because certain races might tend to use the really cheap X-ray machines and certain races might tend to use the really good X-ray machines, and the pattern might look different.
I could totally see our leaders being like, well, we were kind of just using race as a proxy for that anyway. This is better. Yeah, we've always hated the poor. It's not about race. And then we can all live in harmony, except for the poors.
It turns out that when your X-ray looks like this, it's from a Soviet-era machine.
That's from a rural hospital.
Yeah, it's like, why is the incidence of cancer higher in the poor? Well, the radiation leakage.
Can you imagine the signaling if we learned that and people would just go and get X-rays just so they could signal that their X-ray was poor? Well, DeepMind AI has done some amazing things, and at first, it took them a really long time. I think was Go the first thing they did?
Yes.
They beat Go for the game Go first. But then it was just kind of like that broke the dam. And I was like, every game we put this on, it destroys it. It destroys real players. They got League of Legends, chess, checkers, you name it. DeepMind can do it. And now they're saying it's so good, give it whatever you want, it will destroy you.
The Independent is reporting the game is over. Google's DeepMind says that it is on the verge of achieving human-level AI. It's Gato AI, or Gato?
Gato is Spanish for cat.
Generalist. It's a generalist agent that can carry out a huge range of complex tasks. What they're doing here is kind of cheating. It's not artificial general intelligence in any sense that we've defined it up till now. What it is it's a collection of specialized agents for doing specific things, but there's so many of them that basically if you get a large enough sample of people, it's like, hey, can you write some poetry for me? Hey, can you stack some blocks? Hey, can you play Go? Hey, can you do this? It's had enough experience now with all of those things that it can convincingly do those things.
Well, it's funny though, because in the article, the guy who actually worked on it, they asked him like, "Oh, could it pass like a Turing test?" And he's like, "Oh no."
Yeah, he said it was
No,
a
that's
long
not
way
gonna
away from
happen.
that. And yet he says it will be general AI, but it won't pass a Turing test.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he says just you have to scale it. So I assume if you put like a quantum computer with that, you might get something resembling that.
Yeah, what he means is if you could feed it a data set of 1 million people taking a Turing test, then it would pass a Turing test. But it's not going to organically pass a Turing test without having
Which
been.
is not general intelligence.
No.
Yeah.
But it could be used for general tasks.
The headline was maybe a little like not clickbait, but
You're saying there's clickbait? I don't believe that.
Well, no, I get what he's saying because it could totally be used for general tasks. You could this might actually revolutionize certain types of manufacturing because you could basically just set up some generic robots and show them how to do tedious things, and then the robots would continue to do the tedious things.
But that's not general intelligence for artificial. I mean, that's a very clearly defined thing, and that's not it.
Yeah, it's general. It's a larger general intelligence, but it's still not universally general.
It's like when they use for food products light LITE. It doesn't actually mean anything.
This does not contain mayo.
So you can put whatever you want
I
on
thought
it.
we were gonna say like full self-driving. That was what.
Well,
Yeah.
it's maybe a
Yeah.
better example.
It's good, but it's not that good.
Yeah, full self-driving is great until you encounter a truly unique situation, and then the AI is just like, I'm out.
And you know where I bet you get a lot of truly unique situations when it comes to robots? When they're trying to deliver food.
Uber Eats pilots autonomous delivery with Serve Robotics.
And emotional.
And Motional.
They're doing two different things here. One of them is a delivery robot like we've seen driving around on the ground, the little ones on campuses. The other one is the self-driving cars that come, and I guess you go out and get it yourself. I kind of like that scenario.
You can't tip them, unfortunately. you will be reimbursed if you try to tip the robots.
That makes sense. Although I'm sure the kitchen staff is like, great.
No, fantastic. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
I'm really looking for some franchise like White Castle to adopt drone delivery, because I think that would take off. Like if you could dispatch a thing and it just
But if Amazon can't do it, you think White Castle's going to do it?
yeah, because it's a much smaller problem. It's like you have these 8
And
things
they're-
on the menu.
And they're set in a certain size. You
Right.
don't have to worry about
But you
different
have a
weights
weight
and-
limit.
Yeah, you definitely. If you ordered like 20 things from White Castle, that's going to be like 20 drones buzzing your house.
Maybe there's a drone menu where it's like you get something from this menu and you don't modify it.
Or remember when Amazon used to do that thing where they tried to use the machine learning to actually pack the box perfectly for the pantry? That would be like your drone thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how many sliders can you smash into this little container that we got?
It's just smashing them in. The bread's everywhere.
That'd be another job for Flippy. Flippy's just got like a square hand and he's
Smash.
where's this? I don't know. Is this the story of the week?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It's
That's
not
a nonsense story.
It's not a tech story, but it is certainly overwhelming the headlines right now because everybody is like, oh God, we can't do this again. Not again.
The Centers for Disease Control expressed concern about the possibility of undetected monkeypox spreading in the United Kingdom.
But it's not just the UK anymore. This has been detected in Massachusetts in the US. It's been detected in Australia, in Italy. Quite a few countries where typically monkeypox is not found.
Unfortunately, statnews.com does not have the ubiquitous image of the hand with pustules all over.
Oh, yeah.
We just want you to be scared. We don't actually want to give you any useful or actionable details.
Yeah, they don't know anything just yet. By the time this comes out, you may know a little more than we do. Hopefully it's good news
Or you might be dead.
of monkeypox. Yeah.
And if you were in South Korea, then we all know that South Korea has this crazy obsession with plastic surgery. And one of my favorite things about South Korea is that it's so cultural that it's considered completely taboo to ask someone if they've had plastic surgery. I would be so tempted.
Yeah.
But
Engagement
I would
challenge?
just assume so.
here's the thing about it. They love plastic surgery so much, but they don't have very many doctors. Not a lot of people go into the medical profession. They have like one per 100 fewer than most of the Western world. So what do?
South Korea turns to surveillance as ghost surgeries shake faith in hospitals. What's a ghost surgery? It's when your surgeon leaves the room and says, my assistant can handle it. It's fine.
Ugh.
I also kind of feel a little shaky about that.
So it brings up a crazy argument. Obviously, all the doctors are on the side of, no, we can never do that. But some people are saying cameras in operating theaters.
I think that's already the case in a lot of places. They
Not
just
in the
don't-
U.S.
They just don't talk about it.
They won't put them in the actual operating room.
Oh, it's just around it and everywhere else.
Right, like the entrances and all that stuff. But once you're in there, of course, a lot of that is patient anonymity as well.
Confidentiality,
yeah.
I think that's probably hospital liability way more than patient.
But would you waive it?
Yeah,
I think I would too.
I definitely would.
Although, I mean, that's a kind of a nude that could get out, right? They do try to
While
cover
your like
you up.
stomach's open.
Yeah. But it's crazy. I mean, so some people have died in South Korea from this. There was one woman, her son died. He was getting a jawline surgery. And she's been trying to, like bring attention to it and nobody cares.
It's taboo to talk about the failures.
I guess so.
Wish this headline was around when we were kids.
Yeah, the greatest thing about this headline is that we were told over and over and over the phrase that everybody went to. I don't know how all the parents got together on this one phrase, but it was, it'll rot your brain.
Yes.
And here we are. My brain is probably pretty rotted, but I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think probably the corn syrup had more to do with it than that.
Playing video games has an unexpected effect on kids' IQ, say a new study. They have better, the plastic cognition, better problem-solving ability, and better thinking on their feet.
But mildly better.
Yeah,
But
not 10 points better.
It wasn't that it made you that much smarter. It's that it had no negative impact. But also, browsing social media and watching TV, also no negative impact, but also no small positive impact.
My mom didn't have that line about rotting your brain out.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, by that, see, they were, video games had already sort of established themselves. You got to remember,
Yeah,
the
when I was a
Nintendo
kid.
Entertainment System came out while we were kids,
Yeah.
and that changed everything.
And video game stuff was much more taboo than computer stuff, even though you could use the computer to play video games.
Well, they didn't really understand the computers at all. They understood the Nintendo.
It was like $200 for a video game system. That's not acceptable. $200 for a modem. Well, you can probably make that work.
My parents did not understand the Voodoo 2. They're like, why do you need this? And that was back in the day where it was just in the clear container and you just saw the card in there. And they're like, what is that?
It makes the computer go faster.
I need it.
Mom.
Here's a shocking story. Do you guys remember when Texas, their power grid failed when it was too cold?
Yep.
Now, I imagine they probably went into emergency mode and they're like, we have to make sure this never happens again.
The cost of electricity was so high and so much money was wasted there. Had that money been put into the infrastructure, their capacity would have been at least 10% higher.
But it seems that instead of doing that, they said, well, too cold, that won't be a problem during the summer. And somehow they didn't think about the inverse at all.
Texans are asked to turn their thermostats up after sweltering heat knocks 6 power plants offline.
78 degrees is what you're supposed to have it up to right now.
What am I, an animal?
So what?
Well, I guess by the time what you were supposed to have.
What authority has Congress delegated here? Because it seems like this is also some kind of fraud.
Well, remember, we learned that they have their own power grid and it is very, very captured.
How is this not fraud though? Like, you would expect the utility company to be able to provide utilities in a reasonable manner, and this is clearly unreasonable if other places aren't having problems.
Yeah,
Oh, I think that's coming too, actually. Michigan is talking about having to do this later in the summer.
Enron, PG&E, what's the New Jersey one? I mean, we have a long
Edison.
history of these companies just doing whatever they
There was
want.
that huge blackout, I think it was in 2003, that hit New York and parts of Canada
It's
because
fu-
of one tree limb.
It's funny, a lot of the discovery, a lot of the lawsuits and stuff of Con Ed is really hilarious because there's a lot of stuff in the public record from their just incredible corruption. So maybe that would be handy in the case of Texas.
And a lot of people, they're like, oh, hey, we need to turn the internet into a utility. You think that's going to fix it?
I wish it would. Though now I'm just looking at solar panels like maybe I should just do this because who knows if the grid's going to be reliable anymore.
Imagine how valuable your house would be if all of a sudden you had a little bit of power and nobody else did.
I know.
And then you'd be killed in a home invasion. Somebody could charge their phone.
You got to make your house look like it doesn't have power.
Well,
easily.
that's
How do you
the
hide?
benefit of solar panels. Like, even though they're visible if you put them out front, like they don't make noise like a generator would.
Well, I love animal stories and the nonsense part of the Level 1 news. This one is, it's adorable, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, they're sort of, clubbing their way into extinction here, aren't they?
Yeah.
Accidental discovery that scallops love disco lights leads to new fishing technique. Disco Inferno.
Oh.
It's not quite an inferno. Maybe disco slaughter.
Are they going to have to regulate this?
I don't know. Scallops, I remember, I don't remember, but I've read that lobsters, before we figured out the right way to cook them, were just everywhere. Like, you couldn't walk down a beach without kicking lobsters out of the way.
Yeah.
So how long before the poor scallops, now that we know how to kill them in mass, we start to run out of them?
Well, this because the scallops come to you. This is also easier on the habitats for everything else.
Yeah, right now to get scallops, we dredge,
Yeah.
which is not good because it kills everything else. So what they did, they figured out scallops. Also, here's a learning experience for scallops, or a learning moment. They have 200 eyes,
Oh,
and they're all around the rim of their little shell there.
that's 198 too many.
And they have incredible eyesight, and they believe that most of their eyesight is based on light versus dark. So being in there in that little disco crab pot, they can see amazingly well
Huh.
until they're pulled up and killed.
Until they're never seen again. Yeah.
So interesting. Poor little guys. They're having such a good time, partying it up, talking to some girls, and then all of a sudden the pot starts going up.
I didn't know this discotheque moved.
Now, did you get the impression this was in China only?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that they wouldn't sell this anywhere, though, and it is astonishing. However, Krista, you're a big hide from the sun person.
Yes.
Would you ever consider an umbrella for that?
For hiking, like if I was doing a road walk, I would. For just everyday life, no.
What about an umbrella that was only good for the sun and not actual liquids?
I'd probably not love that either. Adidas Gucci selling $1,300 umbrella that isn't waterproof.
Oh, I forgot to mention, would you pay $1,300?
Absolutely not. No.
It seems like I could fix this with a garbage bag
I bet it's not even ultralight.
and some tape.
Yeah, but you could also make your own and save $1,295.
Yeah, I became a believer in the poncho after trying to look for anti-rain technology while bicycling to class.
Yeah,
We
ponchos are
figured
great.
that out, although that can get caught up in your chain.
Yeah.
So that's Gucci and Adidas, and I can't imagine. Like, this is one of those products where I think that if anybody buys that, we should just go kill them.
You want to kill the Gucci gang?
Here's your customer list. All right, we've got a list to work from. Let's get started.
And Call of Duty Warzone continues to be hot among gamers, I guess. They've just added some new stuff. It sounds really cool. I'd like to actually see this, that King Kong and Godzilla fight in the map and you can be all in among all that. That sounds fun.
I was sure that this was, Warzone XP farm discovered in King Kong's nether regions. Yeah, I don't know.
Listicles.
I thought this was like Manscaped was sponsoring this.
Well, they missed the chance, didn't
Yeah.
They really missed the boat.
The
here.
headline doesn't really convey what's happening very well.
But turns out you can fly your helicopter in there.
I don't think you actually need to. I don't know if his testicles are even represented graphically. You get in the general area and you get close enough for the helicopter blade to touch his legs, his thighs. And I guess maybe that's registering damage against him, which gives you XP. I don't really understand that. Any Warzone players out there who've done this? Anybody who's been to Kong's scrotum who can tell us?
Demonetized.
Now, if they do have genitalia on Kong, did they put any genitalia on Godzilla? Because in some storylines, I think Godzilla's a girl. Godzilla did lay an egg once.
Okay.
We've done this story several times because this guy keeps getting back in the news because, surprise, surprise, every year it's a new milestone. This is a big one. However, they did reveal it's not 100%.
Yeah. Wisconsin man celebrates eating McDonald's Big Mac every day for 50 years. Every day except 8.
What do you think happened those 8 days? I'm so
He got COVID.
confused.
Oh, I said
No!
no.
What have you done? What have you done? No!
Do you think the 8 days came
Oh, look at
late
that
in the
haircut.
cycle or early in the cycle?
Probably spread out.
If you had a lineup of people in front of me and you're like, one of these guys eats a Big Mac every day, I'd pick the guy with the bowl cut every time. And a turtleneck, bless his heart.
Now, he says that, I don't think that's a turtleneck. I think that's a collar with a tie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't tell from here.
He says, yeah, I know a lot of people say this is bad for me, but I'm very active. And so this doesn't affect me at all.
I'm sure
Probably does.
it's affecting him some.
Yeah.
There's a guy on YouTube who's like one of these popular bodybuilder guys, but he's an older guy. So he's old. He's got a gray beard, but he's just ripped to shreds. And he describes how while he was trying to gain weight, working out, he just ate McDonald's every day like that too. And even though he had almost 0% body fat, he still had the heart attack.
Yeah. A lot of sludge in those burgers.
A lot of bad stuff. Yeah. Now, you could be, like I said, we should just go and find who buys those umbrellas and kill them.
Balenciaga.
How do you know that, Krista?
I'm kind of low-key into couture stuff a little bit,
Oh, really?
but not enough to actually buy it, but I like watching some of the runway shows.
Well, some of the destroyed shoes. I'm looking for the destroyed shoes on the runway.
Like, this is absurd.
I actually have a pair of these that I use to cut grass.
You should sell them. Just put Balenciaga
Put them
on
at
it.
the Level 1 store for
They're
$100,000.
New Balance. They used to be gray, but now they're green.
The dad sneaker.
A lot of branding on these guys.
We'll spray
never
paint Level
understand that.
1 on the side. That's fine.
So there's kind of a thing, I think, with like couture brands where they'll have the real couture stuff where it's custom made and like it's actually a piece of art, and then there's the low couture stuff which is for people who just want the name. This is probably for the people who just want the name.
Now, look at this one here. I don't think that would stay on your foot, right?
It's about the fashion.
There's no structural integrity there.
I don't get it.
It's making me think I could get some more miles out of my shoes before I retire them.
Yeah. They're just going into the dump and then like writing Balenciaga on the side, and then they
Here it is without the destruction. It doesn't strike me as anything special there either.
It looks like a Converse. This is just a Converse without the patch on it.
God, look at this jacket. It's $4,000.
If I had to buy something from a designer label, I'd buy something from Iris Van Herpen. Great designer.
Engagement challenge.
Great designer.
Try to find something
She
like this.
3D prints part of her dresses. It's actually really cool.
Try to find something crazy like this that she's done so we can burst
Make fun of
Kristen's
her.
bubble.
Yeah.
Well, we talk a lot about, government overreach and the horrible dystopian world that we live in. Asset forfeiture is a big part of that. Asset forfeiture is kind of like, once someone explains it to you and tells you specific examples, you think to yourself,
That's not right.
what country am I living in? What is this? Is this Russia? Is this China? Because it sure seems like it.
Highland Park seized their building. The price to get it back was 2 new police cars. It's policing for profit, says an attorney representing the building's owners.
So, Michigan passed recreational marijuana. That means that you can get some sort of license to grow the stuff. They did. They got a lot of licenses. They were going to grow a lot of marijuana. They got themselves a nice building. They set it all up. And the police came and they're like, we think you're growing weed in here. And they said, yeah, right. Here's all the paperwork. And they said, nope, we're shutting it down. We're taking the building. And so these people started the process of like, oh, it's all legal. We can do this. And then they were told outside of the prosecutor, the mayor himself and the cops came to them and they were like, listen, you could get this building back, but we need new police cars. And that's going to be $70,000. Here's the dealership that we want them from. Go get them.
Whoever said that, do you think they're like ready to punch themselves in the face?
No,
they
because
got caught.
it's Detroit and it's just rotten to the core.
Super bad.
You know what? I'm ashamed to say that I didn't even think about the concept, but Asian elephants versus African elephants, I never made the distinction.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember.
But
we
now
talked
that
about
I know that there's Asian elephants, that's what this young man is. He is Asian and he lives in the Bronx Zoo for now.
New York High Court considers whether a Bronx Zoo elephant is a person.
Is this kind of like the thing in the UK where they said octopi were
Kind of.
Almost
Intelligent.
exactly like that,
Yeah.
because this elephant, whose name is Happy, named after the dwarf, is they passed the mirror test. They put the X on its head, put it in front of a mirror, and all of a sudden that big trunk was like, what is this? You know? And so they assume that if you know that much about yourself, living in a 1-acre prison might be sad.
Yeah.
I don't like zoos at all. I'd say no more zoos. Why? Why we got to make the animals suffer for our entertainment?
We can do it all in the metaverse now.
We should turn prisons into zoos. Just let people go and look at prisons. It's so much more fascinating.
We could do, well, on the note of rehabilitation, maybe that's how you do your zoos. You get animals that need to be rehabilitated or can't be rehabilitated, and that's what your zoo animals are.
There's probably an elephant out there that's like, I'm good with the 1 acre. You're feeding me. I don't have to think about things. Let's do it.
That's Cricket.
well, you
That's
gotta-
my cat.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to ask yourself how many people would take that deal.
Yeah.
A lot of people would take that deal, for sure.
And my cat, so like Rue wants to get out at every opportunity, so she has to have a leash on all the time. But I can like leave the door wide open and Cricket doesn't care. Cricket's like, I've been out there. I don't want to be back out there.
You know who would be a lot better off if she had just accepted that fate? Amber Heard. This is absolute insanity, and I don't believe it at all. Even though they did seem to do some sort of scientific rigor in the study, I still don't believe it.
Hip-hop music makes cheese taste better, study says. They're looking to repeat the study, but they actually tried like 20 different kinds of music and a control cheese that didn't have any music. And
Control cheese.
they also tried just various different kinds of sounds that weren't music. But apparently the hip-hop music was made the cheese taste the best.
Maybe the cheese counter guy was trying to tell me that when I freaked out that time and ran away.
According to the experiment, the different kinds of music resulted in cheeses that smelled different and had a different texture and fermented at different rates, slightly, somewhat. I mean, in the picture, they all look very similar, but, you know.
Did they do this on regular people or was it on like
Oh,
cheese connoisseurs?
No, they had
A cheese sommelier.
Yeah.
they had like a panel, right? Here's the songs: Stairway to Heaven, Mozart's Magic Flute, UV Vibril. I don't know that one.
is-
Do you? Monolith by Yellow, no. And Tribe Called Quest. Tribe Called Quest was the best cheese. A group of food professionals participated in blind taste tests. Now, Wendell, you can't enjoy music. Like, you don't have that ability. What if all these cheeses tasted the same to you?
We should write them a letter and see if they'll send us some cheese.
And you should write them a letter that they should do a Weird Al cheese, right?
Oh, yeah, that
What
would
if
be the
you-
ultimate test.
What if you ate the Weird Al cheese and then everything was just hilarious for a while,
I like all forms of cheese.
but not music?
Well, it doesn't. I just don't get it.
Well, grocery delivery, I'm finding it like they mark those prices up so much, and that hurts my feelings because it is super
And
convenient.
they're playing games with the containers. It's like, oh, the peanut butter's in a Klein bottle this week.
Yeah, and the shoppers don't even try. If something is not like eye level on the shelf, they're just like, oh, they don't have it. I've gone to the store later in the day because I forgot something and had to go, and then they had it. It's just
They probably
lies.
have like a gazillion orders, so I can almost
Yeah.
forgive that, but
But then just don't do it, right?
Yeah.
But I have not had this problem so far.
Aurora mom finds a crack pipe in the grocery delivery. I was like, how bad can this really be? It was a very well-worn crack pipe. Someone is going to miss it a lot.
not a brand new one. That was my grandfather's crack pipe.
Do you think, like, do you hang on to a crack pipe? Is that like a,
No.
I think you probably ditch the crack pipe every
Yeah.
time,
My
right?
papa lived to be 40 years old. It's an heirloom.
I bet if you did keep a crack pipe, I bet it would still be a very short amount of time that one would ever, like, because then you would die, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, wow, he kept that crack pipe for 3 years.
Walmart corporate was also real interested in this, so
Also, I don't know if they tested it for crack. I mean, they could have been using it to smoke something else, right?
I guess. I don't know a whole lot about how drugs work, to be honest.
I think crack pipes, the way I understand it, is you have like a little bit of a filter that you put in there, and then the rock goes in.
Do you melt it?
monetize.
Yeah, we already were demonetized
It
with the
doesn't,
other, so.
no, Chris, it doesn't melt, it burns.
Oh.
See, that's the thing about crack. Cocaine, let's just. Cocaine has a salt in it that prevents it from burning, and by turning it into crack, you remove that or nullify that salt so that you can then burn it and get immediate, but it's a short high. I don't think it's a good idea. I think I would rather just give me the equivalent of cocaine. Even though I've never done cocaine, that sounds like a better time.
Well, you're susceptible to that. As an Appalachian, you have to be careful.
Oh yeah, according to the Sacklers.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. But that's not an opiate.
Well, they said it was just naturally susceptible to addiction.
Yeah, just anything, really.
Yeah, people say that about a lot of the indigenous cultures as well. Alcohol. They say that they have like a genetic predisposition for
It
that.
has nothing to do with the horrors that they've lived through. just genetic.
So many horrors.
Well, we've seen a lot of people try to run from the cops and try to do creative things to avoid them. I think this is the first time I've ever seen this particular tactic.
Florida woman accused of crashing into multiple cars and throwing a fake snake to evade a traffic stop. She's in custody. 4 people had to be sent to the hospital.
Oh, that's less funny.
Looks like she might have gotten a little bruise there on her face too, because they were not too happy about having to chase her and then get the fake snake thrown on them. Now here's the question. Did the fake snake, did that happen to be in the car, or did she put that in there thinking, if
She
the
pulled
cop
it out of her
messes
glove
with me-
box. Yeah.
Was that an emergency fake snake in case you need to flee from a
She had
cop?
some pocket sand too, but it fell out of her pocket when she was running.
It was the carjacking snake. See, she put it in there thinking she was going to be carjacked. But
Krista, you've talked a lot about restricting any children that you might have, God forbid, from accessing a mobile device.
Ideally, yes.
And that is seeming more and more like a really good policy because we see stories like this.
31 McDonald's cheeseburgers delivered to shocked Texas mom. Her toddler ordered them.
that's not a terribly expensive lesson to learn.
Yeah, there are worse things. I love that the picture. I saw a few pictures of this where like the kid was just sitting on a mountain of burgers.
So he bought, how many was it?
It's like 30.
31. I think
Yeah.
it was $70 worth of burgers, and he ate half of one.
That's like peak toddler.
I mean, how much?
I need a pickle now, and you
How
give him a
many
pickle, and they
burgers?
just throw it away.
How many burgers can a toddler really eat? And so a lot of people replying to her post talked about other things. One woman's kid ordered a bunch of iPhones, One of them did DoorDash.
Yeah.
NBA League Pass.
Yeah, just a few burgers. She made it out okay. She's fine. 1,000 iPhones, that would be a little bit more problematic.
That's pretty impressive for a kid, though, don't you think?
Yeah.
That shows how, like, when they're growing up with that stuff,
It's
how
ubiquitous, yeah.
inherent it is in their world. Amazing. Remember Romeo the Frog?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about Romeo the Frog. Also, Alex Jones. It's right again.
He's struggling a bit. Frogs keep mating with the wrong things, according to this Atlantic article, and they've got a helpful picture.
Yeah, girl. You're big, but I love you.
Well, the frogs have no problem around my neighborhood. They are all over the place.
They have a name for it. I can't remember what it was. There's a special word for frog mating.
Is there?
But it turns out this is pretty common. And one of the most disturbing parts of it is that very commonly they will mate with corpses.
Oh.
And it turns out if it's a fresh corpse, that can actually still work because the active mating will cause the eggs to come out. They had at least one example in the wild of necrophilia resulting in viable offspring.
Well, if we weren't demonetized for the cocaine talk and then the pandemic talk, that word just got it.
So they're trying to figure out how if the frogs are this dumb, could eventually this just wipe them out because they can't get it? Oh.
I have tons of frogs around my area, so I'm not too concerned about this one.
They know. They just don't care.
And this one is from the UK. And of course, inflation crushing everyone worldwide. It's not just the United States, although I think we are one of the worst, right?
I don't think so.
We're getting it pretty bad. And a lot of people are saying, hey, you know, that the socialism we have here, hey, bro, we're socialists. Where's the socialism? Let's get some more of it. And the excuse is not very good.
I can't raise benefits because of a complicated computer system. The Treasury says that the welfare payments involve complex and inefficient paper-based systems that are slowed further by aging, inflexible information technology.
So the system that controls this is older than I am.
It's not. You'd be surprised.
But during the pandemic, didn't they figure out pretty quickly how to just shower money onto all of us?
This is in the UK.
Problem?
Yeah, it's the UK.
Yeah, but I mean, you know they can figure that out.
Yeah, they're just choosing not to.
Yeah.
And Thailand, which is historically one of the least tolerant places in the world for drugs. You do not want to smuggle drugs into or out of Thailand because if they catch you, oh boy, is that going to be bad for you. Well, it's a sea change, I suppose.
Thailand to give away 1 million free cannabis plants to households, the minister says. Don't worry, everything is still illegal, and you can't do anything with those, but maybe somebody might make a tea or soup from the plant.
Are they just trying to mellow their population out? They're like, you guys are getting real weird. Have a marijuana plant.
I don't know. You do have to have a medical license, I guess, a reason for this. But yeah, it's going to be like the Detroit thing, don't you think?
Yeah.
The local cops are going to be like, no, you can't do that. And we're going to steal your stuff. Our woke story of the week, as the madness spreads. Oh, Krista, if you do have kids, you're going to go through this and it's going to be so crazy. Because I don't think that you would tolerate it very well, but what are you going to do about it?
Oh, you want me to read it? Middle schoolers accused of sexual harassment for not using preferred pronouns, parents say.
So, the pronouns were they, them. I love how you guys just say nothing about this. The pronouns were they, them, and the kid said, Mom, that's wrong. That's plural. We learned that. That's plural. That's wrong. And so, he has to be destroyed.
They didn't actually say if he was being punished or not.
Yeah, he's being, sued, right?
No. The parents are suing the school board. But he's not been punished or anything. They're quote-unquote investigating, whatever that means.
I think they did, remove him from the classroom or something, right?
I don't think so.
He's under investigation.
But it doesn't, nowhere in the article, I don't think, did it say what that meant.
Yeah, but if you get a letter that your kid's being investigated for that,
Yeah.
Come on. And our final story, which is just hilarious because, personally, I've never used OnlyFans, but it was
Patreon.com/level1. Flip plane.
We will not DM you. by the way.
No, absolutely not. Sorry.
But it was always my understanding that sex workers, like one of the big advantages of that was that you didn't have to talk to them. Right?
Yeah.
Apparently that's been turned on its head.
OnlyFans' biggest stars are hiring professional sexters to reply to horny DMs.
Outsourcing.
It's the next logical step, I suppose.
Also, overwhelmingly, these are men. You're talking to men when you think you're talking to. They point out that some of these girls were so overwhelmed by the direct messages, they didn't have any time to put more nudes out. So they had to hire these. This is also against the terms of service.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did see a heartwarming thing on Reddit, which was it was a dude. A dude had an OnlyFans, or whatever the equivalent to that was, and
Only Dan's.
yeah, and and it was a TikTok, and it was only a few seconds long, and it's like, you know, he had like a suitcase of money, and like he kicked a door down, and then went into his sister's room, and he's like, "This is for you to pay off your student loans." And she was like, "What? What are you doing?" And then
Wait. So you're saying that was the money he got from?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last 3 seconds of the clip is their mom yelling at him really, really loud at the top of her lungs.
Is that staged?
I don't know.
It's a TikTok.
Maybe.
Staged.
I remember reading a 4chan post where a guy claimed that what he would do is he would find OnlyFans girls who he found to be very attractive but didn't have any followers. And then he would subscribe to them, steal all of their content, repost it, but be very interactive with his subscribers. So he was taking girls who had no followers and turning them into massive followers under his own thing because he was all day sexting them and telling them how great they were.
That's sad.
The world is messed up.
It's astonishing. It's astonishing the world we live in.
Well,
But it's entertaining.
We'll see you next week.
Yep. Bye. Don't get monkeypox.